Welcome to Analog Schtick, a PlayStation 2 podcast, the podcast where every month we do a deep dive on one PS2 title. We cover the game's development history, discuss its legacy, as well as share our thoughts and opinions on the game through a modern lens. You can find us on podcast platforms as Analog Schtick, as well as a video version of our podcast on our YouTube channel, Joystick. I'm your host, Clayton. Joined as always by my Muggle co-host, Morgan. Morgan, how are you?
Well, hey now. We don't have to be so mean about it.
No, and for the first time ever, my oh yeah, sorry, I don't know how to do this. We have three people, so.
Yeah,
and my pure-blooded wife, Claire.
Wow, really, pure-blood?
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm good.
This is Claire's first time on the podcast. We brought her on because she's a Harry Potter expert.
Yeah.
So she'll be here for a little bit until we start talking about the game.
And maybe this will convince me to listen to the podcast.
Yeah, because now you're on it. Finally, my wife will listen to my podcast. Before we get into our opening topic, I just want to discuss, I added like this segment here at the start of the show. I'm considering moving it to the end of the show. Post Clayton can decide what happens to that. But I just want to make some amendments to the previous episodes. When I went back to play through TMNT to capture footage for it, I decided it was like a much better speedrunning game than I thought when I initially played it. I think that it's like much more worthy of like, I would basically just, I'd be more willing to recommend it to someone now than I was in the episode. I was kind of like leaning negative towards the game in the episode, I felt like. And I think after playing it for like a second time, leaning a bit more on the positive side of it, a bit more in line with Morgan. So yeah, just wanted to say that. I'm going to leave this section here so we can correct our opinions if we ever want. But yeah, Morgan, could you introduce us to our opening topic?
Yes. So, when I discovered that this episode was going to be about Harry Potter, I decided to whip out this very interesting topic, and that is Snape wives. So just a forewarning, if you have any little wizards or little gamers in the room with you, you should probably put them out of the room because this is not a little wizard or little gamer friendly discussion. So just go ahead and just shoo them away.
It's a content warning.
Yeah.
You guys done one of those?
Well, there's been a couple times where like, I think during the Haunting Ground stuff where it was getting a little
Racy.
rapey.
Oh,
that was very disturbing. A disturbing discussion. Yes.
Yeah, we brought up the little gamers, and I really like that. That's a nice bit of like. That's a good. Does that mean our audience is the big gamers? Can we call them the big gamers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, that makes sense too because they're grown-up PS2 people, right?
Yeah.
Or some, weird little kid who's into nostalgic, like weird, like old consoles. But yeah.
Yeah, there might be some little kids that are like, "Oh, Harry Potter," and we're like, "No, you can't. you need to leave." But anyway, so as a preface for this discussion, this topic, what do you know, or what do you think you know about internet and fandom culture? I want to know how deep down the rabbit hole you've ever gone. I want to know what your experience is. Just as like, I don't know. Just tell me your history.
I hardly interact with any of this. Like most of my interfacing with like communities that are fans of games is like for news purposes. So I'm like following like people who report on the news. I don't really follow fandoms at all.
Okay.
Like to the point where like a lot of people are bothered by like toxic fandoms or like cringy fandoms, and I just that doesn't even register to me because I don't know they exist most of the time. So not at all, basically.
Got it.
I would put myself at a more moderate level. Sorry for my plosive there, Clayton. I'll work harder next time.
Just direct it away from the microphone, I guess.
But yeah, more of a moderate level because I was a Tumblr user. I know I ended in 2016 because I think I officially deleted the app, maybe 2017, but it was freshman year of college when I was like, all right, I'm done with Tumblr. But I probably used it starting in like 2012, 2013. I would say I got a part of a few different fandoms there, but not like as intense as some people. But now I like to watch YouTube retrospectives about fandoms. Like the Onceler fandom.
Yes.
Yeah, all those kinds of things, and just find out the other things that were happening on Tumblr when I was just like reading other things. I don't know.
Yes. Okay. So when you were on Tumblr, you didn't really engage with like the Harry Potter fandom all that much. At least I don't remember.
Yeah, I would say I tried to. One of my things was I was like, well, maybe I'll become a popular blogger, and then the only blogs that ever followed me were porn blogs. Then like high school friends.
You gotta
like
start somewhere.
Two high school friends, which was not great. But no, I tried to be a blog that was like Potterhead plus Bastille.
I remember that.
That was my niche. So I had those two things, and I followed a bunch of those blogs and reposted a bunch of that stuff, and then also just like the funny stuff.
Okay, gotcha. This sort of like research I did for this is very much in line with the whole video essay retrospective thing. I watched approximately 4 hours worth of video essays, and then found and read an academic paper on the topic. So this got I went kind of deep. It's kind of interesting.
I love that.
Yeah. So
also, Clayton, I don't think 4 hours is that intense of a video essay. Like,
I don't know. I like to, if your research was like a pie chart, I think it'd be funny if like we graphed it out and it was like overwhelmingly Snape wives.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah. One was like a 3-hour long video essay. Very good. Very, very well thought out. Would recommend it. It was amazing. The other one was just like an hour, and it was sort of like not quite as deep of a dive. But for those listeners who are not maybe so involved with fandom stuff, I'll try to give you like a brief, vague explanation, maybe give you like some idea of what it's about. So fandom is sort of like a self-aware zone of imagination and experimentation. So the people involved are always aware that they're in sort of like a game, that they're playing a game of sorts. It's like a lot of like irony and stuff like that. But the thing is, sometimes this imaginative play space ceases to be a play space, and the fictional narratives are taken to like an authoritative level. And then that's where these things called fiction-based religions come from. So basically, sometimes what other people are like playing with, sometimes other people are being really intense with, and then it's just kind of a strange new thing.
Do people who are really intense about it get mad when other people are just kind of lukewarm about it? Like they're just a moderate fan?
It kind of
like if I was just an okay fan of Snape and I didn't want to marry him or have any sort of sexual relation with him, would that upset those people?
Actually,
they're like, you don't care enough.
No, actually, that's the interesting thing about this phenomenon, I guess, was that it was the other way around. So it was the more casual people that were getting really, really mad at these like more intense women. It wasn't really the other way around. So like the bullying was more like the like more like normal casual fans ganging up on these like intense super fans.
That's not as funny.
Yeah, it ended up being like kind of sad. Okay, so just like for a little bit of background, I think the Snape wives were the most active between like 2005, 2011. So I want you to think about how when this was happening, the internet was like a little bit of a different place. So you know how like in today's social media spaces, we're all on like the same 4 or 5 apps all the time. So like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Reddit, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So this like Snape wife, whatever, sub fandom was all happening on like these little forum sites that overlapped, but not quite in the same way as like today's social media space does. So it was more like divided, more like out in the wild, not really interacting with like other bits of the Harry Potter fandom so much.
Like chat room type situations?
Yeah, like chat rooms or like smaller like forum boards and stuff like that. Or like, you know, like a forum site dedicated only to Snape wives that only Snape wives were members of. So how did this happen and how did this begin? Basically, a lot of this Snape obsession, love, defense, sort of a defense of like Snape's character spawned from JKR's quote unquote shitty redemption arc for Snape. A lot of Snape lovers were not happy with what she did with his backstory. We're not happy with Lily Potter at all.
By the way, like right before we get into like anything too deep, should we just say flat out like we're going to talk about the entire series
Well, are you saying spoiler warning?
Yeah, like should we just say...
I mean,
I'm
I
not going to
think
spoil
people are-
anything.
Well, but I also think
I
people
kind of
are...
want to.
Okay.
I think people are over spoiler warnings for Harry Potter, though.
I don't know. I just
Yeah, if there's any
we're
little...
talking about everything.
If there's any little gamers or whatever.
Little gamers who are hoping to read this. If there's someone who is like, I was going to read that to my child at some point.
Yeah.
Snape dies. Were they just unhappy that Snape died?
Yeah. Snape
Okay.
has done many questionable things, and then Snape died. The end.
I felt like his redemption arc wasn't bad. I mean, he was.
As a kid, I did not understand it.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I mean, I
Yeah,
felt.
but you come at it different. You were older.
That's true.
Yeah, I wasn't really. I don't know. It's like just the Voldemort killing him when he did thing felt weird to me. But like, I felt like his character is just like by far my favorite character in the series. Right?
Well,
Right.
Not when I was a kid,
Okay.
but
So like I am sort of like agreeing with you in that I don't think that his redemption arc was necessarily like bad. I personally don't have that much, but I'm not like super invested in this character. So like these people were following the books as they came out and following the movies. Well, no, just following the books as they came out because the movies follow
Yeah.
the books, whatever. But so they were speculating like about all this stuff like, oh, what's JKR going to do with his character when the next book comes out? And then, you know, you have so much time, you have the span of years between books or whatever to hype up, to come up with scenarios and like write things that you hope are going to happen. And then when the thing that comes out doesn't line up with those hopes, then you get disappointed. And then you write fan fiction obsessively and try to fix it and vent and cry with all your internet friends about it. And you see where I'm going. You see how this sort of gets rolling.
Yeah.
yes.
J.K. Rowling.
Yes. So according to, I don't know, I guess Harry Potter fandom, JKR is to an extent kind of to blame for for her books not living up to people's expectations. So let me give you the Urban Dictionary definition of a Snape wife.
Love that.
Yes. So according to Urban Dictionary, Snape wives are a group of middle-aged women on the internet who believe they are all married to Severus Snape from the Harry Potter books on the astral plane. They have real-life
the
meetings.
astral plane thing. Oh my god.
Yeah. They have real-life meetings where they take turns channeling the spirit of Snape so they can have wedding ceremonies with him.
I'm glad they take turns.
There is infighting over whom Snape loves more and whether Snape is an emotional wooby who just needs to be loved or a domineering master who lives to be dominant.
Ooh.
Why is it all gotta... Okay.
Yeah. So,
Well, I mean, that's what people are into, you know? No kink shaming.
right.
Yeah, if you want to have sex on the astral plane, go for it. As long as you listen to our podcast, it's fine.
Yes. So I encountered Snape wives for the first time through a video essay by Strange Eons. And she was talking about the marriage ceremonies and everything. And I was like, oh my God, I need to know more. Because I also have a weird interest like Claire where I'm like, I need to watch these retrospectives, these video essays.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know what the drama was. It's just like fascinating to me. And so from the Strange Eons video, she cites this academic paper called Snape Wives and Snapeism, a fiction-based religion within the Harry Potter fandom, and that is by Zoe Alderton. Highly recommend it, fascinating to read. But when I went to go check out this academic paper, I was expecting them for Alderton to be like psychoanalyzing these women and being like, what is the deal? Like, why are they acting like this? What is wrong with them? Maybe a discussion about how like this behavior is really batshit. It's really unhinged. What I did not expect was that the paper was not a discussion of, oh my God, look at how crazy these women are. The paper, it expanded my horizons. It expanded my brain a little bit. So this paper was about how Snapeism, the deification of Snape, the rituals, the complex relationship with this that these women had with this moody Harry Potter professor, objectively speaking, checks the boxes and can be classified as an actual religion, not just like people being insane. It was also about how Snapeism and the study of Snapeism can be used to inform and enhance the studies of other internet-based or new wave or new age or whatever you want to call it religions, which I thought was fascinating. And I didn't expect someone to take a more like, I don't know, compassionate and sort of like respectful view of like what these people were doing. I thought that was just, I don't know. I was like, oh, okay. So not everybody's here to make fun of these people. So, but just to understand how deeply these women felt about Snape, I'm going to read some excerpts from the source just because I want you to understand. To be clear, this is not an invitation of harassment. I'm just reading these direct quotes from the source because I want you to like understand like the headspace that they were in. So this is a direct quote from the paper. So, unsurprisingly, he is the major emotional component of their lives. One woman says she loves Snape more than I have ever loved anyone and would die for him without hesitating. He is an antidote to her life, which is otherwise cruel and pointless. He is her eternal light, the one that made me feel alive. She explains no Cerberus equals no life. She also declares that nothing can end her love for Snape, not even Snape himself, because he is a part of me. With similar passion, this other woman loves him beyond reason, understanding, or comprehension. I'm completely and insanely obsessed. This other woman asks, have you ever wanted something so badly that you ached from within your very soul for it, that it gnaws at your heart and very being? At times, it brings tears to my eyes, and I find myself trembling from this need. She confesses, I have never experienced anything this intense before now. There are times when I feel that my soul is being torn asunder with this fierce desire. Obsession is a mild word for what I feel for Severus Snape. Some nights, she even cries out of lust for Snape. She testifies that without him, there is nothing. Life is just nothing.
That's very poetic, honestly.
Yeah. And
that should be someone should take that and use it as their wedding vows or something.
I mean, they did. They married Snape on the astral plane. They had wedding ceremonies where one woman, and to be clear, the wedding ceremonies, most of them didn't actually happen in person.
Oh, like over the forums?
Yeah.
Yeah, like chat, probably.
Yeah. Some of them had the ability to channel Snape, where they would sort of like, I mean, I guess the best way I can describe it is like being possessed by Snape. And so one would channel Snape and the other would obviously be the one getting married to Snape. And so they would, Snape and the wives would exchange vows that way. And so that's how. So
it's like really intense method acting.
Yes. Or like really intense sort of like role play, obviously with like sexual, desire all up in the mix because that's just kind of part of it.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a lot of erotica written. Some of it inspired by their time channeling Snape. Like they would channel Snape and he would give them visions of like, performing sexual acts, and they would go write it down and then they would share it amongst themselves. And, there was one who was particularly gifted with channeling Snape, and she had like an office hours set up where it's like, hey, I'm going to be channeling Snape, or at least I'm going to try to channel Snape during this time. If you want to come have some sexy RP with your hubby, come hang out, come talk in this private channel, and we'll get your situation solved. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a beautiful story. It shows that there's hope for all men. I know a lot of men think they're unattractive. I don't find Snape particularly attractive. There's apparently a handful of women who will go to great lengths to have sex with a fictional character.
I mean, hey, if you got the dark hair, if you're broody,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Are they okay? Is this specifically the film portrayal of Snape, or does it have to only do with the books?
So
is it?
Part of their belief is that Snape is a spiritual being who exists outside of JKR's universe. Okay. And the Snape presented in the books was like, JKR was like divinely inspired to transcribe his character, even though she is a flawed interpreter, because remember, they don't like his redemption arc and certain... They hated that she killed him off. That was like a big stinging point with them.
Isn't the whole thing with the astral plane thingy that there's like an infinite sort of realities or something like that?
Yeah. I
so
think
there can be any version of Snape, right?
Yes. And I think the idea is that the Snape that they're channeling is from a universe in which Snape physically exists. And because he is a powerful wizard, he has the ability to astrally project and like stop by, like pop in and visit for a little bit and like hang out with his wives and then go back to wherever he came from.
How close is the version of Snape that they are obsessed with? How close is that to J.K. Rowling's portrayal of Snape?
I think, honestly, from what I've seen, it's pretty darn close. There is, it's in the academic paper. So through channeling Snape, they were able to sort of like record aspects of Snape's character and behavior, which, as far as I can tell, is pretty darn like in line with the actual character in the book and in the films. So it says, one woman's ability to channel has allowed her to introduce new codes of conduct and beliefs into the group. For example, she announces that Snape despises annoying, giggling fangirls who think they understand him.
Seems right.
Yeah, as a cute, fluffy, funny being. As Snape, she also makes clear, I only give audience to those women that are strong and able to withstand my fierce temper and do as I say. I coldly ignore those vain, simpering females that hold a thought like a leaky sieve. Thus, she's able to use her channeling to define who is and who is not an appropriate Snape devotee. Through this woman, Snape declares, I can teach you how to feel, teach you how to think. So that kind of like character voice, I think, does come through a bit in the channeling. Though there was a lot of like infighting as to whether or not Snape was like actually that much of a dom. You know what I mean? Like, so that was like a big point of contention.
That's fair.
And caused like some like fracturing of the group.
Maybe it depends on the partner, you know?
I don't see him as a dom whatsoever. I don't see him.
Yeah.
What am I saying? Why are we?
They did sort of like I said, there was like some infighting over Snape's character, but they did sort of come to a consensus, much like what Claire said, where they were like, oh, our master is very powerful and he can sort of like fulfill whatever role we need. That sort of a thing.
Perfect.
So,
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, they sort of like ease the tensions by, you know, putting out that statement. We're like, okay, here's how we're going to resolve this issue with the group, you know. And then from there,
you ever get worried that this is how like religion started? Just saying, like just a couple obsessive people huddling around. Like, what does this God do? They probably do all this.
Yeah,
because we like it. I don't know.
Well, so the thing is, really, if you look back at religious behavior, I don't know, like how much you've. Basically, what I'm trying to say is there were definitely medieval nuns that were very into Jesus. Like.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Like, wait,
a little bit too much. You know what I mean?
Wait, I pulled this up on my phone. This is exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
So I read this thing a long time ago, but it sticks with me. And I literally had the quote exactly correct, except I missed the second half of this quote. But this is a quote from Brother Lawrence, who was like, I think, an earlier church father. But he writes in, I think it's a book or an essay called The Practice of the Presence. So this is his quote, and he's talking about how he doesn't need, like, I think he was like a monk, you know, like he was unmarried, couldn't be married, you know. So he says, I have had such delicious thoughts of the Lord that I'm ashamed to mention them.
I was going to bring something up, maybe too personal for the podcast. Wasn't it talked about in your small group or something?
Well, yeah, they were always trying to convince me in high school that even if you don't get married, that God can satisfy you sexually and stuff, which, like, in some ways that's fine, but in other ways it's a little weird.
Yeah.
You know? I don't think they know. I don't think that means, like, what does that mean? Like, that's like saying food can satisfy you. Like, what?
I think it just, I think it's supposed to more mean like you can, I think it was supposed to be more like you can live a fulfilled life without having a sexual partner. But like that kind of quote right here, this guy, this monk or whoever was literally trying to say like, no, I've had like delicious thoughts that I'm ashamed to mention. Yeah,
a little bit.
like,
Yeah.
But like in a way that he's saying like, well, maybe it's more spiritual than sexual, but like, I don't know. It's like fulfilled or whatever.
In a very similar vein, I also watched a separate video essay by Strange Eons where she also talked about specifically queer nuns, like queer medieval nuns. And one of the nuns that she discussed was this woman who, this is very similar actually, very creepy how like similar it is, but she claimed that she could channel Jesus Christ, and she would enter this channeling state and then take the time to go around and sexually satisfy the other nuns in her convent because they were all in a certain sort of way married to Jesus, quote unquote.
Oh, that's like a direct parallel to the Snape wives.
Creepy was not the right word to use. What I meant, I meant like it's really fascinating how this sort of behavior, it really isn't anything new. Like,
yeah,
it's, you can look at it and be like, oh, that's weird. But then there's like past examples of like literally the same thing.
I would say it's probably prone to happen even more now based off of how we, isolate ourselves on the internet and find people that are just like us.
Yes.
So,
well, potentially, but they were isolated in a nunnery or whatever.
A convent.
It's like, well, they all had the same, convent.
Yeah.
like the same religious beliefs. And
do you think anyone wants to fuck a PlayStation 2?
There's people that...
for a forum like that?
Yeah, I'm looking for a forum. I mean, if anyone did, they're probably listening to this podcast. Let me know.
I mean, there's people that like to have sex with their cars. Like
that is the thing. I've heard about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there were people that were like sexually attracted to like their computer or something. I don't know.
Specifically the PlayStation 2.
Okay. I don't know.
Specifically,
maybe you can find it. I don't know. I'm not going to go looking for it.
We'll keep our eyes out for it. But Morgan won't, I guess.
I won't.
I'm on the case. Yeah. I'll come back next week. That'll be the opening topic next week.
Yeah, if you can find me a video essay on it, I will watch it.
And then, every opening topic is just a strange group of people who want to have sex with a fictional person or a inanimate object.
Well, honestly, you might be able to find that for the rest of the games you play.
We definitely can. There's
Rule
probably
34.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
probably
gonna be hard.
There's probably more. That would be its own podcast. I mean, hey, shout out to anyone who wanted to hear about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Well, that's the end of my my Snape wife ramble. I just wanted to get in that, like, hey, nothing new under the sun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think it is interesting though, and I was looking at. I found the article, I found the academic article that you pulled up, and it's an independent scholar, but it's published in a religion journal. I don't know, and I think that it is cool to think about religious beliefs, and I think that a lot of people try and like ignore these big spiritual feelings that people have, but like everyone has them and just channels them in different ways, you know?
Yeah.
Not everyone. I think most people have them, I guess, is probably a better thing to say. But
right. I feel like with like anything and everything, a lot of people experience things at like a moderate level. And then there's some people that experience things at like, and I know there's a negative connotation with this word, and I don't necessarily mean it that way, but like at a fanatic level where it's like extra passion, extra, heightened emotions, stuff like that. I think a lot of times our society is more focused on, moderation, modest behaviors. And so if there's anything that goes outside that window, we're just like, what do we do with this?
Well, even in our background of Christianity, like there was a phase where people would wear shirts and have bracelets and stuff that say like, I'm a Jesus freak, and wanting to be like more extreme and be like, no, the amount that I like love Jesus is like intense.
Yeah.
And I think people would say like, not those exact quotes that you read, but like really similar, like the love I have is so deep and so crazy, and I have never felt this way before. Like all of those things are things that people say about Christianity, and that's considered like a modern accepted religion,
Right.
Yeah.
Or like another specific thing, I don't remember the specific quote, but like, the praise and worship music that's like, I want you to like burn through me, basically. Like I want you to set my life on fire or whatever. I know that's not like word for word what they say, but that's definitely a sentiment in like legitimate religions.
Yeah, no, there's a worship song that literally like one of the biggest part of the chorus is burning everything.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Now that we've had that deep dive into into the human psyche.
Do you think that most of that is like, not to like diminish it to just being a kid, but do you think it's mostly younger people who get like super obsessed? I know you said middle-aged.
Oh yeah, no. So that was the thing. These women were like, they were married and had like children, like teenage children. So they were like probably in their like 40s and 50s. And another interesting thing, not all of them, but some of them were in like unfulfilling relationships with their husbands.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to get. I feel like kids are kind of, I don't know, some depending on the situation, I feel like maybe their unsatisfaction with their life or situation makes them do these types of things. And maybe that would apply to like an unsatisfying marriage.
Well, right. Well, I mean, I think a good amount of the 50 Shades of Grey, like, excitement came from kind of that age bracket of women too.
Yeah.
So,
well, like it's these women that aren't, you know, they're like past their quote unquote past their prime. They're not represented in media. They don't have any socially acceptable outlets for their sexuality, for their desires, stuff like that. So I can kind of understand where
there's a legitimate dead zone for women.
Yes.
I don't know what age most people refer to it as, but like it's like past like being like a hot thing, and then you come back a couple years, like 10 years later, as a matriarch.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how a lot of like actress roles go.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, kind of sucks. But yeah, so just a thought. Well, and also like as far as like young people being fanatic or like having that weird sort of obsessive thing going on, there is like the shifting community on TikTok. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Yeah, so that's also a young people thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real thing and intense for sure.
Yeah.
It kind of feels...
I don't mean real as in I believe it, but...
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's a movement.
It's a real thing, and I do it, yeah. It feels like, I mean, it's just escapism, but like it's kind of weird. It's a little strange to me to like believe in it, like as it's being real. Like you can totally be a creative writer or just like have fun, like imagining a different world or whatever as like a means of escapism. But it's a little weird to like insist that it's real.
Well, and some of it comes from like, oh, what are the kinds of dreams that you can control?
Lucid dreams.
Yeah, like some of it's lucid dreaming, but then they take a step further and then say like, no, but I actually have another life over there. And that feels like a pretty extreme version of escapism.
So basically, it's not true, but I feel like they could also still enjoy that same thing. Yeah. Despite it being not true. Like just allowing it to be fiction and enjoying it as fiction.
Yeah. I guess. Celebrate it for like what it is instead of trying to build it into something it's not, sort of. Yeah. I wonder if people just like participate in that sort of thing. Not really, but I don't even know.
I think there's kids that have maybe some mental illness or some trauma that like that's where it gets dangerous, and like also that's why they go more extreme with it, you know. At least that's my understanding based on the few videos I've watched about it.
Yeah.
Or like to get into that headspace where you can like shift or whatever, you have to sort of like willingly dissociate or like, I don't know, isolate yourself to the point where you end up doing that, and that can be really bad and really dangerous. So yeah. Anyway, should we talk about the PS2 game now?
Oh yeah. It's so funny. We tried to redo the opening topics instead of like going through like, hey, what's everything we've done this month and what games have we played? We're like, let's just talk about one thing. Yeah. We gotta make this quicker. We can't spend 40 minutes on every introduction, and here we are. I can't guarantee that every opening topic will be as interesting as this one. I assume that it's my job next week to come up with one. So
yes.
No guarantees. It might be pretty basic. Like what's the best toppings for sandwiches or something? Yeah.
Perfectly fine topic.
What kind of sandwich are you sexually attracted to? That'll be
McChicken.
McChicken.
Well, yeah, there was that video,
you might have to read a academic article for that though.
Oh, okay. Let's get into the background information on the topic at hand, which is, in case you have forgotten, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the PS2. But before we get into the PS2 adaptation of the game or of the book, I'm going to hit everyone with some very general information about probably one of the most well-known franchises in existence. So Harry Potter is an immensely popular book series written by the now controversial J.K. Rowling. The series spanned I struggle with numbers, even when I write them out. The series spanned 7 books over the course of 10 years, with the first book being Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, released in 1997. The Harry Potter series is far and away the #1 best-selling book series of all time. As of 2017, the Harry Potter book series is sitting at over 500 million copies sold. Second place is actually Goosebumps with 350 million, so a pretty giant gap between #1 and #2.
Wow.
I don't know how this could ever be topped, honestly. It feels like, not to say that kids don't read anymore, but like, is there ever going to be like a book series that is this like important to like popular culture again? I don't know.
Likely not.
It would have to be like a young adult series, like targeting the same demographic, I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
mean, after Harry Potter ended, there was Percy Jackson, Witch and Wizard. I'm trying to think of, there were like
Hunger
a few
Games.
different, Hunger Games. There's a few different book series that people would be like, this is the next Harry Potter. This is the next Harry Potter. And it never was. Like, it couldn't even come close, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that would be like so annoying to like, because like Hunger Games is like nothing like Harry Potter, you know, aside from like potentially appealing to the same, maybe, well, not even like the same age bracket, but like, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would suck to be like, we're shoving your book under this huge cultural monolith's shadow. Deal with it.
Yeah, that would suck.
#1 is Harry Potter. #2 is Goosebumps. #3 is Perry Mason.
What is that?
It's apparently it went from 1933 to 1973.
Oh.
It's 82 books or installments. I don't know exactly how it was released. Plus 4 short stories.
Well, that does make me want to change my statement. Maybe it could happen again.
You know what?
Because if
Maybe
a book that we've never ever heard of is #3 most selling book series.
But that's like past. I'm talking about like
future. I know, but like, I don't know.
It's hard for me to believe there's so many other things. There's so many other like very accessible avenues of entertainment that I feel like getting people to all go towards the same like piece of like a book or something would be difficult.
Potentially, I don't know.
Berenstain Bears #4. Shout out to Berenstain Bears.
Also, not to be like overly spiteful, but you know, just looking at the shit JKR has pulled and all that crap. I hope somebody comes up with the next big thing and beats her out. You know what I mean?
That would be good.
Guys, Diary of a Wimpy Kid is #6 on the list.
I never read
so
those.
It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
But that's true. That is like the most recent thing up here. Percy Jackson's on the list, but it's a little bit lower down.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that includes like because there was like a couple spin-off series, I think.
Well, but those were called different things.
Twilight's on here. I don't know, it's a little bit further down as well. But yeah, I mean, most of the things you would expect to be on here are on here. Like a lot of children's books that had like hundreds of entries.
Yeah.
Hunger Games made it. I wonder what the biggest list on here with the least installments is. It's 50 Shades of Grey. God dang it.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, that's only 3 books.
3 books.
50 Shades was Twilight fan fiction, so.
That's true. if you lump those two together, they may overtake Harry Potter. Anyway, this podcast is like a train that has like, it's just on skates. There's no like locking mechanism to keep it from getting derailed.
Like
it's
the part on Polar Express where they have to go across the ice.
This podcast is the part of Polar Express where they're on the ice. Oh, no. So they're constantly derailed.
It's okay. The what are they? The caribou will come soon.
Yeah, caribou. That's the only part of the show I remember.
I just remember the ghost man on the train roof. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, ghost man. Oh, what about that part where he pulled his beard and he went, "Ow"? You remember that?
That was with the caribou.
With the caribou, yeah. That part hurt me for some reason. I'm like, that seems so painful.
The puppets really freaked me out. It's a scary movie.
Wild movie. Wild Game 2. We got to play that eventually.
Oh, I've seen gameplay of that. It's a winner.
Horrible. Yeah.
You should get my sister on for that one because that's her favorite movie.
That's her favorite. That would be so funny. Anyway, film adaptation did also exceedingly well. It's not the best-selling film or the highest grossing seems to be how like films are judged. It's not the highest grossing film of all time or film series of all time, but it's on the list. It's like, I think it's number 3. I don't know why I didn't put it on here. Currently sits above $9 billion total gross, making it one of the highest grossing film franchises of all time.
Wow.
Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is the highest grossing film of that series, followed by the Sorcerer's Stone. So they'll be the end and the beginning of the best. I keep wanting to say at the box office, it probably includes more than just the box office. So,
Fun fact, Morgan and I went to the midnight screening of Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Got a t-shirt thrown at us.
We got a t-shirt Morgan kept
Oh, wow.
I still have it.
and wore for a while. You do? Aw.
It's at my mom's house right now, though. But yeah, I have it.
When was that? 2010?
I don't remember. We were in junior high, right? I think.
Yeah, we definitely were, because I remember you wearing it, like,
Let's say 2010.
and we were in the junior high.
Yeah.
Like, the next day or something.
All right. Moving on to the video game adaptation. There were a handful of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stones versions released over the early 2000s. A total of 5 versions were released. But this particular version of the game for the PS2 was developed by Warthog Games and published by Electronic Arts. God dang it. Whatever. I really thought that this was a Harry Potter studio because it was Warthog. Like, I was expecting to look into this and find out that they were making Harry Potter games because it's just Hogwarts flipped.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, it's a Harry Potter team. It's not. In fact, they only made this game for Harry Potter, as far as Harry Potter games go. Warthog Games was founded in 1997 by a handful of ex-Electronic Arts employees and developed a total of 19 games before going defunct in 2006.
Oh.
Majority of their work was video game adaptations of well-known IP, including Star Trek, Looney Tunes, and Battlestar Galactica, among others. Despite being based off the first book in the Harry Potter series, the PlayStation 2 version of Sorcerer's Stone was released 1 year after the Chamber of Secrets. So I mentioned in the previous episode that I thought that was the case, and I was correct. A lot of people criticized this game upon its release for its reuse of a lot of the assets from Chamber of Secrets, which is interesting. It wasn't developed by the same team, but they still reused like all their assets and stuff. So it's interesting how that works. Most people prefer Chamber of Secrets to Sorcerer's Stone. They kind of see Sorcerer's Stone as like a downgraded version of Chamber of Secrets. There's a couple improvements, I believe, to like load times and graphics, allegedly. Although some people are like, this looks worse somehow. Yeah, it seems like you could do less in this version as well. I believe in Chamber of Secrets, you can like fly around the whole castle and stuff.
That sounds right.
But yeah, not in this game. Or can you? I don't even know. I thought I saw someone flying around on a broomstick outside of the like mission where you fly around on a broomstick, but maybe I'm wrong there. Anyway, as far as like legacy past this game, Harry Potter video games would continue to be released alongside the films up until the release of Deathly Hallows Part 2 for the PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii. And Harry Potter games would become somewhat sparse after that. I don't think that there was any home console release of note. There was like a couple of Kinect games for the Xbox 360.
That sounds right.
Yeah, but like nothing substantial. The upcoming release of Hogwarts Legacy, that's going to be developed by Portkey Studios, and they've been in charge of a couple mobile games up until this point. The most notable one being Wizards Unite, which was the Pokemon Go clone.
Yeah.
By the same developers. I don't know if you remember this, Morgan. It was like walk around. Did you play this?
I downloaded it.
Okay. I think I downloaded it too, but I hadn't read Harry Potter at that point, so I don't think I really comprehended what was happening.
You had to use your phone to move your finger in different ways to cast the spells to capture different monsters, and it was kind of a Fantastic Beasts situation.
Interesting. Also, Portkey, that's a Harry Potter thing. That studio's name.
Yeah.
That is a Harry Potter thing. I think that they're exclusively Harry Potter.
Okay.
So I think it's a Warner Bros. Studio.
Yeah. Although it's not a bad name if you were gonna, like, it's, I don't know.
Yeah, it works.
It could be another.
That's like an Xbox thing. Xbox names a lot of their studios after their franchises. Like the Gears studio is called the Coalition, which is, I think, a faction within Gears of War.
Interesting.
They got 343, which is 343 Guilty Spark from Halo. So it's a little strange. I don't know. But yeah, I guess it's cute, you know, they're developing the game or whatever. Morgan, I'm curious if you've seen anything about Hogwarts Legacy.
So,
or
okay. The only things that I have seen have been a lot of very angry critiques about the story elements of the game and how it is like an anti-Semitic sort of like story trope thing that they got going on.
Well, that's... Are they just criticizing the fact that it's involving the goblins?
So I could be misunderstanding entirely what's going on, but it was my understanding that the plot was about putting down a goblin uprising.
Yeah. And
that there is like I've seen the whole, is it Blood Label? Is that how you say that? I don't know how that word is pronounced. I want to say it's pronounced Blood Label. There's an anti-Semitic trope, which is about Jewish people supposedly kidnapping and using babies for blood sacrifices or something, and the game supposedly ties into that somehow. I don't know how. This is just what I've heard.
Is that based off of the game's like own like lore that they're creating or adding to the universe, or is that just like pre-established stuff that they're working with?
I
you know what I mean?
I don't know.
Because I think that the game, I mean, J.K. Rowling was criticized about.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is people have been criticizing J.K. Rowling about the goblins.
Well, yeah, because like they're like greedy money hoarders, quote unquote, and they have like the long hooked noses. So you look at that and you're like, well, this seems kind of sketchy, J.K.R.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I've just seen the take that people don't want J.K. Rowling to get any more money.
That too.
Yeah, I get it. If you really hate J.K. Rowling, then I wouldn't buy the game, but. I don't think that she's really involved with it outside of...
She gets a bunch of royalties.
She gets money. I'm just saying, like, in the creation of this thing.
Probably not. No,
I don't know if she's involved with it in that aspect.
JKR, lead game designer. Oh, no.
It's hard for me because I like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and you didn't get to grow up liking it. I feel like that's different.
Yeah, I don't know. I also don't pay attention to...
All this stuff, yeah.
All this stuff. I don't really know what happened, or is happening, or will happen.
He literally exists in a void.
How dare you not be omniscient?
All I know is the PlayStation 2.
Right.
That's all. I don't expect the game to get... I'm waiting for reviews on this game, but I do not expect it to be reviewed like detached from this criticism, like the controversy around J.K. Rowling at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of low scores and a lot of overcompensation from people who like either side of this thing. Like, I'm sure there's people who are going to be like, this is the best game ever because I hate Twitter or I hate outrage culture or something. And I'm sure I think that like a lot of outlets aren't even like covering the game as far as I'm aware. I think that was a stance maybe the IGN took or like Kotaku or something, like where they're just not going to talk about the game.
Interesting.
I can't remember which place did it. There's some people who have done it. But yeah, I mean, are you interested in the game?
It's not been on my radar, no. I don't really know anything about it.
I'm a little worried about it. It looks a little generic. I think the idea of exploring like a really detailed Hogwarts is fun. And that's about it. Yeah. And if it did that well, then maybe I'd get it later. But I don't have high hopes. I still think
if you want that, Lego Harry Potter made the best Hogwarts. That's the only one you need.
Is that on the PS2?
I think there might be some on the PS2.
That's the only way I can play games is if they're on the PS2 and we do it for the podcast.
Yeah. Well, we bought Lego Harry Potter for like the Switch or something.
Yeah, I have a weird thing with Lego games where they make me sleepy. I don't know how to describe this, but like every time I've tried to play a Lego game, this happened when we tried to play Lego Batman one time. I fell asleep multiple times.
Oh no.
When we tried to play it, when I tried to play Harry Potter with
me,
with you, I was just like
sleepy. He was like, I can't do this.
I don't know why. Like, I love the Lego games.
Is it because it gives you like childhood warm and fuzzies and you're like, oh, time for my nappy?
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I just makes me sleepy.
Okay. Well, Well, I'll review that one with Morgan, and you can take it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I'll sleep through the whole podcast and you can talk about it with Morgan. I don't think it's on the PlayStation 2 though. I kind of want to say it's just the 2 Lego Star Wars games.
Oh, those are fun too, though.
Yeah, those are great.
We played all these on the Wii when I was a kid, but
Oh yeah. Where are we? Okay, yeah. What's our personal history with the franchise? I think we've kind of said this a little bit already, but just to reiterate, I wasn't involved in the series or with the series in any way, really, up until I don't know when it was, like 6 months ago,
maybe a year ago.
maybe a year ago. I listened to all the books through Audible, and I'm like, these are great. I love them. I'd been relatively free. I'd seen the first movie and I'd read the first book and I made it like halfway through the second book. So that's,
Years ago.
yeah, that's like all that I had going into it.
Yeah, because I bothered you to try and read them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first time I ever read a page of Harry Potter, I think I might have been like 4th or 5th grade, maybe 3rd. But I was sitting in the back seat of my parents' minivan, and my mom was sitting in the middle seat, like in between me and probably my brother in the back bench seat. And she was like ravenously finishing the 7th book. And I leaned over, and I think I read something about like Albus Severus or something, like, but nothing that made sense to me. But I was like reading over her shoulder for like these final scenes that I ended up having no memory of them, but I was like, Mom, this book is really good. And she's like, yeah, but you can't be reading this part. And so then like a few weeks later, I started the first book, and then I tore through them. And, you know, I hinted at being on Tumblr, like being part of, I kind of guess like the Potterhead fandom, but definitely like going deep into reading all the fan theories and headcanons and all that. I've never been into fan fiction, but I think I could have been at that time pretty intensely. And then Clayton and I's childhood youth pastor told me that I couldn't marry Clayton if he hadn't read the Harry Potter series. But I did do that because he hadn't read them by the time we got married.
That's true. Still haven't read them, depending on how you look at audiobooks. So
Oh, I think audiobooks is reading.
it's the closest I'm going to get. You also listen to that podcast.
Oh, I listened to, for a couple years, Harry Potter and the Sacred Text, which takes a chapter of Harry Potter a week and talks about it as if it's a holy book, like a holy text, and they do different spiritual practices with it, and I really, really liked it. And then I just they got through, you know, all 7 books and then restarted, and I started listening to the first book again, and I kind of was just burnt out by that point.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really good.
That's what's going to happen whenever we finish the PlayStation 2 library. We're just going to
Go
restart.
through it all again. Yeah, start with the, oh man, the launch. No.
Oh my
Not
God.
Fantavision. Don't do that to me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I also started reading the books probably around 4th or 5th grade. I remember I got through the first 4 of them pretty quickly. I got to the 5th one, had a major hang up. Just like the 5th one was like a huge roadblock for me. I just got so bored with that one for some reason. I think it was just...
That book is like oppressive, so that kind of makes
just
sense.
because
Yeah,
it's really
big.
slow. It's like
It's big to carry around.
it's the longest
It's like
one.
they can't
I'm
do
pretty sure.
anything in the book. Like in the book, like Harry and his people,
Yeah.
it's like they're just stuck and they can't do
Yeah.
anything the whole book.
Yeah.
So I abandoned that one. I've actually never read the entirety of the 5th book.
What?
Yeah, I never got through that one, but I watched the movie, had enough like plot knowledge to move on like quite a while later and read through the 6th one and then finish out the 6th and the 7th one. So
Whoa, wait, you should read the 5th one.
The
though.
5th one is probably up there for satisfying endings.
okay. Well, the movie was cool.
Probably because it's so painful to get through.
Well, yeah.
That's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I just remember like the beginning of the 5th one just was a real slog to read through for me at
Yeah.
the time, and I just
Oh yeah, because
the trial
Dumbledore hates Harry.
the whole
Yeah.
trial shtick and
Yeah,
I couldn't.
Dumbledore's like not talking to
Yeah,
Harry the whole
yeah.
time.
I'm pretty sure that's Savannah's all-time favorite book
Yeah,
because she relates to like the sadness and the frustration of Harry the whole time.
Oh,
She used to read it and say like whenever she felt distant from God, she would like read it and stuff. So anyway, interesting.
is the god analogy Dumbledore? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. At that time.
I guess so. Is he perfect?
No.
Is he like meant to feel like a perfect character?
No.
I mean, as a kid, I think I was like, he's awesome and he did no wrong. But now you read it and you're like, no, this guy definitely could have just like told people a little more information.
I guess.
I have very strong, after rereading the first book, I have very strong feelings about some of the stuff that was going on. Just like as an adult, with an adult's perspective, I'm just like, what? Anyway.
Yeah. It's hard for me because I don't know how to like, the ending of the whole series, the 7th book to me is weird. I don't know.
Well, because
like,
it's not even at the school. You know, you've been spending time at this school for 6 years with Harry, and then all of a sudden you're not at the school anymore. It's like, where's my home? I don't have my home anymore.
I love it though. That's my favorite one. When COVID hit, I read the 7th book for comfort.
Yeah.
Like that was what I went back to.
Well, we were listening to the 5th book, and you got glimpses of that, and then you're like, I'm just going to read the 5th book. Like, starting off. And then you skip 6, which I think is...
See, 6 was the one that I really liked. I really liked 6 for some reason.
6 is...
I like 6, but 7 is just my favorite. I love camping.
Oh, yeah.
I love camping.
Horror camping.
Yeah. I think for me, because when do you consider the shift in tone to be?
Probably
because there's like an obvious...
Definitely. So I think the third one, because like the first 2 books are about the same size, same length, same sort of like, oh, it's little kids. The third one gets a little bit more serious, but the 4th one where somebody gets killed and then you're like, oh shit, Voldemort's back. That's definitely the shift.
I would say mid-third it starts to get like darker or whatever.
I would say even the beginning of the 4th where they were like tormenting and like contorting the body of like a muggle.
Yeah.
Like,
the poor groundskeeper guy or whatever that they kill.
Yeah, it was like the groundskeeper and his family or something, I think.
It gets pretty intense.
And that was pretty wild because it was like, hey, you know, it's like 100 pages in. It's like, you know, you're all... It's a while into the book, I think. It's just the Quidditch tournament. It's all happy and stuff. And then suddenly terrorism broke out. Yeah, so what was your preparation looking like?
So I... played through the game, completed the game. I think I had maybe like 70% completion. I had enough points to win the House Cup. And then I read the first book, watched the first movie again, and I actually went ahead and read through the second book too because I was just in the mood. So that's like on the brain.
I was worried that was going to happen to me too. Like after I finished the first book, I'm like, am I going to go back into the second book? But
well, you just got a few more and then you can read the 5th book, Morgan.
That's true. I have yet to crack open the third one just because it's like a bit thick and it's kind of intimidating. So
you could skip it. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if you're an audiobook person, but like the person they had do the audio or do the reading for the audiobooks it's really good.
It's like an award-winning audiobook like series, I'm pretty sure.
It's really good. But yeah, so for me, I played through the game once and I was sitting at 57% completion before the final boss. Could you save after the final boss? I don't know if you could or if I just didn't do it.
Yeah, I think so because after the final boss, I'm pretty sure it gave you time to go and redo any of the dungeons if you wanted, so you could get enough points to win the House Cup, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I just didn't save then. Okay. I just saved before the final boss finished the game, and I was like, that's it. But I was sitting at 57% completion before then. I did win the House Cup, but I don't know how I got points exactly. I just got all the potion ingredients. That was the only thing I knew that I was doing to contribute to the point total.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to explain that now or I can explain that? Okay.
Yeah.
So
how did the points work?
How the points worked was, so anytime you would go into like a dungeon for one of your classes, do you remember the little like Hogwarts seals?
Challenge tokens?
Yeah, the little tokens that you could pick up. Yeah, so the more tokens you picked up, the higher your grade would be that the professor would give you. The higher your grade, the more points you were awarded for completing the dungeon. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that my grade was linked to the points that I would receive.
Yes,
okay.
It was.
So I reread the first book as well, and I rewatched the first movie. And I was just listening to it in the background while I was writing all this stuff. I think the first movie is my favorite movie.
Interesting.
Personally. Let's get into some of these very important... These are like screening questions that we do an hour into the podcast, so people can kind of get like a feel for you. Of the 4 houses, this is again like astrology for... Actually, I was going to say the TMNT thing was kind of like astrology
Yeah.
as well, of like which turtle you are. This is, I think, a more intense astrology. Claire, I'll let you go first. What house do you belong to? Or what house do you believe that you belong to?
I believe that I belong to Hufflepuff. Most people think that I would be in Ravenclaw, but I always felt like that wasn't quite right. I mean, in some ways it could be right. I could be in Ravenclaw. But I took the Pottermore quiz, and what's important on that quiz is you pick what you value, and I valued friendship and loyalty over, like, gaining knowledge. And I'd say that is true for who I am and how I live my life. And I also just think, if I, like, think about, like, the common rooms, I would rather be close to the kitchen and warm and cozy and hanging out with plants than up in the tower where it's, like, windy and eagles and stuff. So Hufflepuff is where I have landed.
And were you assigned Hufflepuff?
Yeah.
Okay. What about a Patronus?
Well, I tried to look it up. I took the Pottermore Patronus quiz, but I must have deleted that note. Or maybe it's like saved in the other notes section.
I didn't realize there was a test for that.
Yeah. I don't know.
That
I guess
feels
I
too
don't
limiting,
have it.
though. Like, they couldn't possibly account for every animal.
No.
Like, what if I wanted to be a beta fish?
The most
I mean, it might be
the
on
most
there.
interesting
But I
I
don't
saw
know.
someone get was a swan. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know what I would be.
What do you feel akin to?
I don't know. Come back to me. I'm going to let you
Okay,
guys
yeah, we'll
answer.
go. We'll go then.
I'm going to think.
Morgan, how about you? What house do you believe that you belong to?
So before I took any sort of quiz, and that was like when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, I bet I'm like Ravenclaw or something, because I was like I wasn't a good student. What am I saying?
Well, we were told
we were told we were good
the-
students.
the-
we were told we were
gifted
gifted
ones.
little kiddos. So I was like, I bet I'm a Ravenclaw.
Right, and same.
Yeah.
Yeah, my teachers didn't lie to us. We were not in the gifted program.
Hey, we were put in a special class for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And that's how our friendship
That's
grew.
great.
But then, so I've taken the official house quiz twice. I took it once when I was a kid, and then I took it once post-graduated college. And as a working class adult, so the first time I took the quiz when I was a kid, I got Hufflepuff, okay? Which, yeah, I get it.
Woohoo!
Kitchen, cozy, friendship, love, all that. After I graduated college, I took it again. I got Slytherin. So
Yeah.
something drastic
you're-
happened
yeah.
to me in like those few years. But yeah,
No, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Honestly.
being a jaded adult just does that to you a little bit, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe we should have discussed this before we jumped into the houses, but like, how do you define each of the houses? I guess you first, Morgan.
Well, so here's the thing. I have a hang up with JKR's characterization and world building a little bit because she lacks
yeah.
nuance. Her like morality as she presents it in the book is a lot of black and white, at least for the first couple books, definitely. So obviously Slytherin is evil. It's the evil house. It's the racist house. It's the bullies and
They are the racist
cutthroats
house,
and the
yes.
ruthless ones. I just think that I see Slytherin as like ambitious.
Cunning is how
I think
would...
ambition
Yeah.
can be good and bad. So yeah, I see it as mainly the ambitious house.
I think that I agree with you. It's one of my biggest problems with it as well is just that this is a house full of clearly evil kids, and no one seems to notice
Right.
or care. All signs point to evil. Only evil people come. Like all evil people are Slytherin.
Yeah, they come from this house.
It's very strange.
Their common room is down in the dungeons where they belong. Like, yeah.
I wanted, like
My argument for it is that we see this during the time period that Harry Potter is set, which is like this post and pre-Voldemort time, and like it's almost like the society they're living in has put that on Slytherin, but we don't
Yeah.
ever really get to see like I guess we see the Marauders time a little bit, but even then, I don't know. Like they don't like Snape, but I don't know if all of Slytherin at that time was like the evil
Right.
kids. You know what I mean? And so I would be super interested to know if like that would change, like the time period would change anything, because obviously like after Voldemort fell the first time, everyone was like, oh, now we know who everyone like the evil people are, and then they kind of banded together, but they kept existing in society, and so Slytherin kind of like had that as part of it.
One of the sucky things about the way JKR developed Slytherin's like history was, oh, the founder was Salazar Slytherin, and he was the racist one that was like, oh, we should have pure-blooded mages in our school.
Pure blood,
so that sucks. But I do think that's a good point.
That's true. That's a good point.
Also, question: did Grindelwald come from Slytherin, or did he even come from Hogwarts?
I think he went to a different school. I think.
Oh yeah.
Just to see if there was
connection. Oh no, he went to Durmstrang.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was the
because Karkaroff recognized the symbol that had been carved into the dorms in Durmstrang, the
Death Eaters.
Deathly Hallows
Okay.
symbol.
Oh, Deathly
Okay,
Hallows.
interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think that exploring like a different time period for the Slytherin house where they don't have that baggage or as much baggage would be really cool. But
yeah. I also think like there's a lot of, I think the thing that would have been cool to explore also, but like maybe it doesn't make sense within the Harry Potter series, is that there is a lot of overlap between houses, because like loyalty is supposed to be a Hufflepuff thing, but it's also supposed to be a Gryffindor thing. And like bravery is very similar to like a lot of like that would be the main Gryffindor thing, like bravery, but that's very similar to a lot of the Slytherin things. And then my roommate in undergrad came up with this goofy theory one night, but she was like, the pursuit of knowledge is power. Therefore, Ravenclaws are just Slytherins because all they want is power. And it was like, wow, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's just like these overlaps within them.
I definitely link Hufflepuff and Gryffindor as being kind of close, and Slytherin and Ravenclaw as being kind of close for that reason specifically. That just kind of made sense in my head. I wish that the Voldemort thing was... I feel like if the Voldemort thing was handled differently, that would have led to maybe... Or if Harry had like a Slytherin friend or something.
Or if there was some positive interaction, with any of the Slytherin students that wasn't just, oh, they're bullying us again and saying racist slurs at my best friend.
Right.
Yeah. I'm totally down for like the thing of like, this is from Harry's perspective and he doesn't like Slytherin at the start. But if that I feel like if that changed through like towards the end, I'd be down for like his previous interpretation of hating them.
It's supposed to change because at the very end he tells Albus Severus like, you're named after two of the bravest men I ever knew, and one of them was from Slytherin. So really there was that attempt made for Harry's mind to change.
But
I mean, like,
yeah.
Can we list all the good Slytherin real quick? We have Snape.
Snape is also kind of questionable because the way that he treats these children is just like, you are acting like a loser. What are you doing?
He's not 100% good,
but he is good. Like in his heart, he's good. Like he's fighting.
He ultimately does the right thing
on Voldemort. Yeah. But Slughorn is another.
Didn't Slughorn?
I like Slughorn a lot.
Didn't Slughorn like betray them at the last second though? And like,
no.
I thought he did.
Wait, did he? He fought for Hogwarts.
Oh, I thought he like rallied the Slytherin students at like the last second. Was like, yeah, we're gonna help the Death Eaters. Here we go.
No,
I could have read that really wrong.
He was just a little complicated because he's definitely like he was like his like little.
He was a schmoozer.
Balls, or he was a schmoozer. Yeah.
No, he's definitely a schmoozer. But no, I'm pretty sure that he was helping fight like with the Hogwarts people against the Death Eaters.
Okay. Does Draco ultimately turn out okay? I don't remember.
He does, but
he's still kind
of him and his parents, they just leave, I think.
I would say that Draco and like all the Malfoys, they end up still believing that like family and love is more important than Voldemort's plan, and so I would say that puts them more on the good side.
Okay.
Because it's all about Narcissa's love for Draco that like
she named
and stuff,
her Narcissa. Sorry, again, I have issues with some of her choices.
You're right. No, some of it's on the nose.
Yeah,
but like as a kid, I didn't get that. You know?
Yeah, you don't notice.
Yeah, I wish in my head that there was some sort of rewriting of Draco's character to
Yeah.
eventually join like Harry's posse. I felt like that was gonna happen,
Like a Zuko thing. Like, oh,
Yeah.
our bully turns into our weird friend. We just kind of adopt him and give him some love, and then he turns out okay.
Well, after I was anticipating it to happen in the 7th book, like after Voldemort like abuses his whole family
Right.
and him.
Yeah.
that, like
No, it's set up for that for sure.
yeah, but then it didn't really happen. He was still kind of
Well, Clayton, I'll say it again. I think you're the target audience for The Cursed Child. I didn't
guess
like
so.
it, but
Oh yeah, I didn't like that
might.
from what I read about it. I was like, oh no.
I read it, read the whole thing.
okay.
I
Maybe
think there's problematic elements, but I do think that there's some elements in there that,
that is the
don't know.
screenplay about Harry's kids, right?
well, it's a stage play.
Stage play.
There's
Yeah.
one
About Harry's
very
kids.
specific thing about it that bothers me very much, but I don't want to spoil it for Clayton if
Oh.
he doesn't know.
Is it Harry's is it their kids like first year? Like what
No,
is-
it's Albus Severus's year.
like his first,
Yeah.
and it's just that, or is there more?
No.
So is it a whole series?
No. It's just one play. I can't tell you more.
Okay, so it's just okay. It's just a one-off, is what I'm saying. Like it's not
Yeah, it's a one-off.
It's not like, oh, here's Albus Severus's whole 7-year journey at Hogwarts
No.
or whatever. Okay. Okay, maybe I'll. I don't
I
know.
think my parents have it, so we can.
Does Jim Dale read that book as well? Because then I'll listen to it.
I don't know.
So what do we? So Gryffindor's brave, Hufflepuff is loyal, Ravenclaw's
Smart.
Intelligent.
Slytherin is ambitious.
Yeah.
Is the word we decided on? I always saw them as cunning, which I guess is
That too.
you could lump in there maybe as a
think
secondary
I
characteristic.
think ambitious is less negatively, like with less negative connotation.
I don't see. I feel like cunning has both. I mean, it's like a.
Being cunning can be a good thing.
Yeah.
You're crafty.
Yeah, it can be.
I see it. I mean, maybe that's fitting for Slytherin is that it's perceived poorly,
That's true. That's true.
but like
But it
it's a
doesn't
bit
have
more
to be.
neutral
Yeah.
than what it is now, which is brave, loyal, smart, and racist.
So Morgan and I both said ours, so you have to say yours.
So, I always saw myself as a Slytherin
Yeah.
because I perceived them in a sort of like a cunning sort of thing. I didn't really feel like Hufflepuff made sense. Ravenclaw is like the furthest thing from me. And Gryffindor, I don't know if brave is like my defining characteristic as a human.
I think it's brave to
I thought
not
cunning-
smile and interact with the YMCA photographer.
I don't know.
It is kind of.
It could be anything. It could be
it's-
loyal, intelligent, or cunning.
No,
It could
it's
be-
kind of more aloof, which feels like Slytherin.
Yeah.
No, I was doing it intentionally. I mean,
Yeah, but I think you were. Yeah, you can be intentionally aloof.
I was abusing the situation with my cunning. I don't know.
Sure, whatever.
But yeah, as we discussed, it's the House of Evil Racist Kids, so
Well, 2 out of 3 right now are falling there.
I
so.
guess. When I took the test, it made me Gryffindor, though. So,
See,
right? We did that recently?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
remember when I was even when I was a kid and I was taking the test, I remember being like, "Oh, I hope I don't get Gryffindor," because I had it in my head like that's the basic bitch house. I don't want to be in that.
That's a lame house, yeah.
Well, I
You don't
think
want Gryffindor.
there were a lot of kids that wanted to be in the past, and then it kind of turned to like, well, but now everyone
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't want to be Gryffindor.
I want to be
Yeah.
special.
Exactly. What do you think? Gryffindor is probably the most populated house, right?
I mean, it's what we get the.
Not in the story. I mean,
Oh.
like in the fandom.
Oh,
like,
I don't. Maybe. Actually, I think Hufflepuff
I
might be. If I had to guess.
Yeah.
Really, Hufflepuff was always like the lamest
In
to
your
me.
eyes.
It's changed
Well,
now. I don't know
it
what.
even
Everything except Slytherin is
It
lame.
even says in the little rhymey thing about the school students, it says, you know, like, oh, Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw will take these specific students, and Hufflepuff was like, I don't know, we'll just take the rest of them. It's like,
yeah. Welcoming.
yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
But also makes it feel like your students are just like leftovers. Like, I don't know, that doesn't feel very special.
But that feels like true to my experience.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Patronus, dog. I think dog would be cool. Greyhound, German Shepherd. I don't know which one.
A mix.
Yeah, a mix. Morgan, what about you?
When I took the quiz, I didn't take the quiz as an adult, just as a kid. I got a cat, which is very, I think, on brand.
Yeah,
That's cool.
that
But
makes
if I
sense.
got to pick mine, or if it was like a reflection of like my personality, I think it would be like a raccoon or like a wolverine or a honey badger or something that looks, I have
Yeah.
something that looks small and relatively non-threatening, but will throw hands if you get too close.
like
I also
that.
had,
Yeah, that's good.
or maybe a really angry goose.
Which would be hilarious.
Yes.
That'd be the best Patronus.
Yeah.
What were the Patroni? What was Ron and Hermione? Do you remember?
I think Hermione's was a little dog, maybe.
Why do I feel like someone
Or
had
maybe
an
a
otter?
badger. Yeah, someone's might have been. Maybe Hermione's was an otter.
Because I remember them getting lamer. Like Harry's was a stag,
Yeah,
which is
which
like cool.
Yeah.
And then they got pretty lame.
I'm looking it up.
I love the idea of casting
Oh,
a Patronus, and then, like I said, like a raccoon, where it's like a rat. It's just like this like little like annoying thing.
Yeah, he's flying
Yeah.
out of your wand.
Hermione's was an otter,
Okay.
and then Ron's was a Jack Russell Terrier.
That's actually
Which is
really
Yeah.
funny. Just like a little
Yeah.
yappy dog.
I have no idea what mine would be, honestly, and I can't remember what the quiz was. Could it be like a cow? Like
That would be funny.
just really
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
A blue whale.
Like a-
It takes up the whole
Yeah.
freaking room. You're just like swimming in it. You can't see anything.
Yeah, well, it would be really inspiring.
Yeah.
That'd be a very effective AoE right
That's
there.
true. Yeah.
Just throw down a whale, anyone in the radius, anyone inside the whale.
I
is
love
effective.
that. I love that strat. Like, yeah, let's
Okay.
bring Jim along for the raid because he has the big whale Patronus. Sorry.
Would it be like a, oh, what is it? Like a, would it be ironic? Like it would be like a really tiny kid has the beluga whale
Oh, that would be good.
Patronus. Yeah. So before we get into the adaptation of the story within the PlayStation 2 game, let's talk about our general thoughts and feelings on the book and the movie. Yeah.
Am I still supposed to be here?
Yeah, you could be here for this part. But
Oh,
after
okay,
this, it's probably it. Morgan, I know that you were taking some notes as you were reading the book.
Yes. Let me scroll down and find them because I have some hangups. Okay. So the password system of the portraits.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, hey, man, you need two-factor authentication. Because,
Yeah. You say the password and then we have to, I don't know, phone a friend or something.
right.
To get
Which, I mean, I don't know if the portraits, like, recognize if you're, like, one of their house kids or not. I don't.
I believe
Okay.
so.
I think she knows them.
Okay. Then I will rescind my 2FA complaint.
Well, it's only Gryffindor that has a password on a portrait.
Really?
What?
I didn't
I
realize
think.
that.
Well, because
No, Slytherin in the
Slytherin had
second
one.
book.
okay, Slytherin has
Yeah.
one, but for Ravenclaw you have to answer a riddle to get it.
That's
so
right.
mean.
I remember that. That's in the sixth, seventh book.
I would
I don't
never
know,
get
but then
in.
For I know that would be really hard. And then for Hufflepuff, they have a portrait next to the kitchens, and you tickle a pear to get in.
That's really cute.
So it's like instead of a password, you just have to know where to touch
Yeah.
on the portrait,
That's funny.
which I think is cute
Yeah.
and inclusive.
Yeah.
You know?
In the seventh book, Hermione solves the riddle to get into Ravenclaw.
Oh
for
yeah,
Harry.
yeah.
Which
Oh.
I want to point out real quick. I think another interesting thing that could have been done about the story, done differently. I think it would have been cool if Hermione and Ron weren't also in Gryffindor,
Yeah.
like to kind of spread it out a little bit so all of Harry's friends aren't from the same house. Like I feel like Ron makes sense as a Hufflepuff. I feel like Hermione obviously makes sense as a Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Like loyalty and
It probably just limits
Intelligence.
some of the story points. But
I guess so, but yeah. One of my biggest complaints is that they don't branch out to students and stuff. Like it feels like it's just that main group that we get to spend time with, and then like a bunch of adults
Well, where-
that Harry interacts with.
Where's Luna's not in Gryffindor, is she?
yeah,
Ravenclaw.
she's Ravenclaw.
Okay. And like there's like Cedric
Yeah.
and Cho's in Ravenclaw, I think.
Cho's also in Ravenclaw.
So it like
But
kind
they-
of does.
That's about
Yeah.
it.
That's true.
I mean, like
Of the main
I wanted like a
people.
Slytherin too. Is kind of where that comes
yeah,
from.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted like a diverse group, especially for like the part where they're forming their Dumbledore's army
Yeah.
stuff. I wanted to get to know these people from other houses and stuff.
Yeah.
You do a little, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it incredibly annoying how Gryffindor is always considered the best house, but I know it's from the perspective of Gryffindor students, so like I kind of get it.
Don't they? I mean, they win every single time that Harry's there, like the House Cup and stuff.
Yeah.
Except for the parts where like Cedric dies and it's Blackburn,
And there is no,
like when Dumbledore dies and yeah.
But I think that the lore was that they hadn't won. Like Slytherin had been winning
true.
for years and years before.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that it'd been like I think that was said in the first book.
like a Slytherin streak.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There is the specific plot point when Harry is like his first time as a Seeker in like the Quidditch game or whatever, and like his broom starts to go out of control, and Hagrid's like watching it with Ron and Hermione, and he's like, oh, only dark magic could mess with the broom like that. Why is Hagrid the only one that notices? And why doesn't anybody watching like do anything about it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's a great point.
That whole scene is very...
I guess because the idea is that you're watching the quaffle, you know?
I guess, yeah. Yeah.
You're watching the the live action rather than the Seeker, but yeah, people would still notice, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
I got
especially
problems with
the
Quidditch.
commentator, like the commentator student is even like saying like, oh, it looks like Harry is losing control of his broom. And then there's like people in the crowd pointing and being like, whoa, but nobody does anything.
Well, I guess they could have thought, well, that little 11-year-old doesn't know how to fly.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah. I thought it was funny in the movie. It was so like Hermione was like had the binoculars and she was like looking at Harry, and then she just like glanced down slightly and was like, "Oh my god, it's Snape!"
Snape is just like murmuring ominously. But I also think it's like I like how it's sort of like carefully, like subtly foreshadows that like Quirrell is the one behind everything. You know, because like in the movie you can see him standing behind Snape, and like
it's cut out of frame, so you can't really see.
But he's moving his mouth in the movie a little. Quirrell
He has his hands above his mouth. I think.
Yeah. And like in the book, how it like mentions like, oh, Hermione knocked over poor Professor Quirrell trying to get to Snape, and so it's like, oh, and that's why the broom curse stopped.
I think it's super clever, and I think more little tidbits like that would have really helped form Snape's redemption arc.
Yeah.
better.
Oh man, the whole time I didn't know anything about like Snape's stuff. The only thing I knew was that Snape killed Dumbledore, as that's like the Luke Skywalker sort of like, I am your father.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows that. But the whole time I was reading the books, because of this moment, like in this first book where like Snape is saving Harry, like every bad thing Snape does, I'm like, but he saved Harry in that first thing. Like, how can he be bad? The whole time, like for the sixth book where he is just a villain. The entire like there's like no other way to read it really other than him being a villain.
Yeah.
Because it like starts from him and he's like doing his double agent thing. He's like,
Right.
yes, I am a Death Eater. Like two other Death Eaters. He's like meeting with the Death Eaters and everyone's like, I'm like, but he saved Harry. How does you justify anything? So I've been coming back to that whole Quidditch games thing for the entire series.
Yeah. I was also frustrated by the whole like, oh, there's definitely a professor trying to sabotage things and murder a student, and they think it's Snape. Like they're fairly insistent that it's Snape most of the first book. And then they're like, oh, Dumbledore's gone? Well, I guess we can't tell any other professor. Like they couldn't go to McGonagall or
I remember that.
I'm like, you guys, like what? And
they're a little dumb.
Yeah. And then the final thing that just kind of upsets me a lot is, okay, you have the Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Very important magical artifact. Very useful to half-dead evil wizards. Okay. How come a gaggle of 11-year-olds, like the puzzles set up protecting it, can be beaten by a gaggle of 11-year-olds? Like, and you put it in a school full of other 11-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like, you're just tempting fate. Even though Dumbledore's last puzzle of like, oh, you can only get the stone if you don't actually want to use it is a very effective control. Then what was the point of the other puzzles that could still be beaten by children? I don't know. It just bugs me.
I think they beat them because of love. Okay.
Quirrell, as an adult, was able to just go through it by himself still. Like, the measures still failed in many different ways. And that's what I don't like.
Well, if you think about it, they also, for some reason, just yanked the stone out of Gringotts and were like, yeah, Hogwarts is better.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, that's always been like that's been like a common
that Hogwarts
line.
is the safest.
Hogwarts is the safest place.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of evidence to prove that, though, honestly.
No, they really don't.
Also, I don't know, something else that I kind of caught that I thought was really odd was that Hogwarts is the safest place. This establishes this without a doubt for some reason. Also, Harry's only prior interactions with Dumbledore are reading his little description on the back of his chocolate frog card and seeing him in the Great Hall making speeches sometimes. And also like the mirror of
the mirror
thing. Yeah. Which aren't. And then I don't know, it doesn't feel like a lot of a good basis for Harry to be like, this is the best man ever. It just feels
well,
Hagrid
sort of really
strange.
likes him, which I feel like adds to it.
Well, yeah,
that's true.
But if I was Harry, I would be like, Hagrid is the best man ever. Because this was the man who came and pulled me out of the Dursley situation, who bought me my owl and took me around, bought me my school supply, or like helped me or whatever.
Serves you tea on the weekends. Like, absolutely one of Harry's children should have been named Rubus. Yeah. Like, or Rubius. Or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's still alive, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Hagrid is, the actor that played Hagrid sadly passed away. But
I just meant in the books.
In the books, when his kids are going, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh.
The whole, like, all of his kids are named after dead people thing was... Is that right?
Well, he literally just has his parents' names for 2 of his kids, which is a bit odd.
I think the family name thing is more understandable than the just, like, everyone who died. And
I just think it's a little weird that's like, yeah, my mom had red hair, and my dad looked like me, and now I got a son that looks like me, and a daughter that has red hair, and they're named after my parents, who, we're married, but these 2 are brother and sister. Like, if you think about it a little... It gets a little weird.
Yeah, it's like a line because he's married to Ginny.
Right.
So it's like a line of people that all look the same.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, one last complaint, and this is like a really nitpicky thing. There is the thing about Professor Quirrell has Voldemort on the back of his head, right? And he goes and kills unicorns and drinks the blood to sort of like sustain Voldemort's like life force. Is like an extreme measure because in the book it warns us, hey, you kill a unicorn, you drink its blood. For the rest of your life, you're going to have a cursed life for that. I didn't really, like, get it because it's like Voldemort's already fucked up, so, like, what does it matter? I
thought it was... Oh, I always read it as... Because it says, like, you'll have a cursed life, a half-life. Yeah. I thought that's, like, how he managed to get onto the back of Quirrell's head is that...
is it Quirrell
like,
drinking
the half-life is that... I always thought it was like, well, it's a half-life because you don't have a full body. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm off base.
Sorry, I like that. I like that logic, though. That's fun.
Yeah, I couldn't really work out what that was intended to mean, but I understand.
I mean, it's definitely, like, intended to mean don't drink blood.
Or it could just be like, this is a really evil thing to do, and you shouldn't do it. So that means that the guy that did it's really bad news, which is fine, I guess. But yeah, that's just... Anyway.
As a book, compared to the rest of the books in the series, I'd say that this is probably my second favorite or my first favorite, depending on the day. I really like the pre-melodramatic side of the series.
Yeah.
So 1 and 2, I really enjoy.
I've seen people describe the first 2 as more like on the, I always say this wrong, Road Doll. Is that how you say that? Rod Dahl. You know, the guy that wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
And like James and the Giant Peach.
Roddle?
His name's not... Sorry.
I think it's Road.
Raw?
Road Doll.
Who wrote...
But people say like it has that kind of like fantasy and like playfulness. Whimsy. But then that definitely changes.
Oh, it is Roald. Ronald without the N.
Yeah, it's Ronald minus the N. All right.
But yes, but the first 2 feel very like playful, fantasy, fun.
Which is what I like. I think that for people growing up with the series, the shift to melodramatic is probably really fun and probably coincided with their like teenage angst.
Yeah, that's what I was
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. I just suddenly thought of one last thing. Another characterization complaint. The whole Dudley being fat and bad.
Oh my gosh,
I did not like that very much at all.
There's some hilarious like descriptions of him being fat, like Dudley, who could barely fit through a door.
His butt hanging over the sides of the chair. I'm like,
the butt over the chair.
Joanne, can we calm down a little bit?
It's pretty fat.
Yeah, that's
that
very
was
bad.
so like that stood out so much when I was listening to it.
And I think that's supposed to be kind of that like fantasy playfulness, kind of like his like size was not even supposed to be taken literally, you know, like, oh, it's kind of a joke, whatever. But when you then put it in context with where the series goes, it's like, well, you have to take that seriously.
Also, how freaking greasy Snape is all the time.
Yeah.
He's like, greasy, sniveling Snape. And then it's like, okay, so you want,
oily.
Yeah, oily. Yeah, it's like, oh, Joanne, come on.
Try to give him a hug and he just slips right out.
Yeah, he's like lubricated constantly, very slippery fellow.
Which can be helpful.
Helps him escape situations. I don't know.
Fits his personality. Same with the movie for me. I really enjoy the first book and the first movie. I think the movie is probably I think the movie is my favorite movie because I think the book was the most able to be the story made most sense for a movie given its brevity. Like
they pretty much hit all the beats that they needed to. Yeah.
The other ones are just too long, I think, to work as movies.
Yeah. I still love them. But...
Oh yeah, they're fun. I feel like they just there's definitely people who watched only the movies.
Yeah, and I don't understand that.
I don't understand how you could do that. Like it doesn't feel possible. Like some characters just show up.
Yeah.
Like Charlie or Bill.
Yeah.
It's just like it shows up in the last book. And it's just like, I mean, he's not like an essential character, but like,
he's
just a werewolf now. Like, and you don't know why.
Yeah. This is what always happens though with book to movie adaptations, because literally like the first Hunger Games movie, they left out her, whatever they call it, like her prep team, Katniss's prep team. And then like they end up being pretty integral characters in the third book. And it's like, how are you going to explain the fact that you didn't even have those people? Like, anyway.
I think adaptations in general are weird. Like, the world is what's interesting with Harry Potter.
Yeah.
You could tell a different story in the same world. Like,
Fantastic Beasts, I don't think worked out so great, did it? I've heard complaints.
I mean,
I've seen the first.
You can tell bad stories too. I mean, like
the thing is, they did it in America. Like, I don't know why they felt like they needed to say, okay, well, you want the same world, but in a completely different country, and they say different words, and like, I don't know. I saw the first movie and it was okay, but then I just like was not interested in the others, and so I didn't see them. So maybe they're fine.
I think that removes like an integral part of Harry Potter though, where it's about kids. Like, I think it being from a kid's perspective is what makes it so.
Yeah, because it's from an adult. I watched Sage watch. I didn't have the headphones in. He watched the entire Fantastic Beasts. Is it a trilogy? However many movies they are. He watched all of them on our flight. I think either to or back from Seattle. I had no audio. I was just absorbing the story through I was absorbing it through like the shots and like the expressions and stuff. And even like just by that I could tell it was bad. I don't know.
I'd be curious if I don't know. Like, does J.K. Rowling have final say over like I want to know what the deal is like. Because I'm sure if a studio, like a publisher, owns Harry Potter, I'm sure they would have an interest in pumping out a bunch of content. Whether or not that would all be good, I don't know. But like, if J.K. Rowling owns the rights, I don't think she's in any rush to put out any more Harry Potter thing. I don't know what the deal is.
Well,
with
I don't actually think that they'd want to start pumping out more movies right now. Not for me, but I just don't. Her. I think no, but I also think people are kind of over it. Yeah, fatigue. Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, like going to the Harry Potter world is still really cool, and like, but that's. I don't think people want a new story in the world. Honestly, I think they just want the nostalgia of Harry Potter.
Maybe I feel like as if you were like an executive, you look at, or someone like who's like a money person at one of these companies, you just see that it's like the #1 best-selling book franchise and like one of the like the 3rd best performing film franchises. I don't know how you don't convince people to like move on something.
I mean, they are still making money, though, is the thing.
Yeah. And I guess they are making, the last Fantastic Beasts just came out recently.
Yeah.
So they were working on that. And with Hogwarts Legacy, it's jumping back into video games. So I guess now is probably one of the most vibrant times for, or like as far as like plentiful like things, stories or whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. We are maybe going to get more and more Harry Potter stuff. Maybe we'd get more if it wasn't so controversial.
Yeah. She's kind of shooting herself in the foot, I think, more than anything.
Can you just push past the controversy? Like, if they put out enough stuff, do people get over it? And if it's good, especially.
There's a good section of previously devoted Harry Potter fans who are still, like, into the story and the story matters to them, who have said, I will only ever buy Harry Potter merch from Etsy, like, the independent sellers. I won't be buying any, like, who have taken it, like, and decided I will not give money to the merchandise that benefits J.K. Rowling. And honestly, I kind of feel like that's not a bad line.
Yeah, or like buying the book secondhand, buying things secondhand.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
And not that we condone piracy of PlayStation 2 games, but, well, you can't buy it in a way that supports J.K. Rowling. So the people don't really like, I mean, some people like it, but it's not like a worldwide hit like Harry Potter was, the current Harry or Wizarding World stuff that's out.
Like Fantastic Beasts?
Yeah, like people don't like it.
No.
So I feel like it's easy to have a successful boycott when people don't really like the thing.
Right. But if they liked it, yeah, I see what you mean.
I think Hogwarts Legacy will be interesting. I don't think it's going to be amazing, but if it is like a pretty fun game, I'd be curious, like, if people would push past the criticism for that, like, or if the boycott would stand in people's mind. I don't know. We'll see. Claire, you have anything to say about these first books?
Nope.
Okay. First books. Yeah.
We've gone for a while, and
you
guys should start actually discussing the game.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how they adapted the story into the game. It's largely following the same plots of the book/movie. I think it leans more towards movie than book. There's a lot of lines ripped directly from the book, or not the book, the movie, and some from the book, I think. But there's some areas that they really gloss over that I think kind of do a disservice to anyone. God forbid anyone is just like playing only this game to take in the story of like Harry Potter, but characters like Ron and Hermione are kind of like pushed to the background, as well as like other supporting characters. Like Dumbledore barely has a role. A lot of the teachers are kind of just like present. Morgan, anything stand out to you as missing, or like an event from the book or movie that you would have wanted to play in the game?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, obviously, like, the game has to expand on a lot of areas. Like, what do the students do during their classes? Because the book doesn't gloss over it, but you can't turn what the book says into a video game level.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I can't remember in the books, and I guess the book specifically, but I feel like they just went to each class once. That's kind of like the feeling that I got.
Yeah, and it's mainly like, oh, in this class we learned this one spell. And then this funny thing happened because Neville's bad at everything.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He's not slandered with being fat. He's just slandered with being dumb.
With being bad and dumb. Yeah.
So for those who haven't played the game opens up in Ollivander's shop, which is a hefty way into
that was kind of jarring. To have the game.
Because you spend like a couple minutes in cutscenes.
Yeah.
Just at the beginning, you get, it's like Harry getting a letter. Well, it's him being dropped off as a baby, and then him getting a letter. I don't even think we see the Dursleys. Like,
yeah,
I'm fairly
I don't
certain.
remember them at all.
No, I don't think we do. So it's him getting a letter, and then it's just him at the Leaky Cauldron going into Diagon Alley. So it skips over a lot. Personally, I thought the idea of having like maybe a level where you play as Harry before he's a wizard could have been interesting. The idea of like having a zoo level is kind of fun to me. Just that first instance of like Harry doing wizard-ish things.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would take some game like interpretation of those events to turn it into like a level.
Yeah, well, I mean, they kind of had to do that with Ollivanders too, because you crawl through this whole section of the shop and you fight. Are they pixies? Something like that. I can't
even remember.
I think they might be pixies.
Yeah, I do remember. No, you fight the trolls. You throw them in cages.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if there's something else though. Oh yeah, by the way, whenever you like pick your wand at the beginning, did you pick the right wand first?
Yeah, I walked up to all the wands and I listened to the description and I picked the one that I remembered was right from the book.
Yeah. The first time I played it, I thought it was random. Like I thought I was going to have to go through a couple wands like in the movie or in the book / movie. I keep saying either or, but it applies to both most of the time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's one complaint that I have with the adaptation is it feels like we skip like 1/4 of the story and just get like straight into Harry being a wizard.
Right.
Which
it's the cooler part.
It's the cooler part, but like, I don't know. To me, the Dursleys are like an integral part of the Harry story. I don't know if everyone feels that way.
Yeah.
But I like them. Another area of the game that is trimmed down compared to the books and movies is Quidditch. There is like a broom flying mechanic, and you do play in one Quidditch game, but you don't like play Quidditch. You just chase the snitch.
You have to go through the rings.
Yeah, you just like go on like a guided course basically.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, the Quidditch game released before this, and I kind of get the idea of, you know, if you already have like a Quidditch game, maybe you don't need to make a probably like worse version of Quidditch inside of this game as well. Mm-hmm. I don't know though. I feel like I might have just like trimmed out all of the like broom flying stuff if I wasn't going to play Quidditch though.
Well, and the only other broom section that came before the Quidditch match in game was chasing Malfoy on a broom, which
right.
We could talk about that later, but I was not a fan of that chunk at all.
There's that section, and then you can just like fly around if you talk to Madame Hooch.
Oh, okay. I never bothered.
Yeah, and I believe, I don't know if you did this. Can you just fly around randomly? Like when you're on the castle grounds, can you just like pull out your broomstick and start flying?
I never tried to.
See, there was something that I read that made me think you could do that. I don't know if I was reading about Chamber of Secrets though.
Oh, that could be.
Which may have been that.
Yeah.
But that Malfoy, also, this is a thing that me and Claire talk about all the time, is that for some reason my brain cannot say Malfoy.
Malfoy? Oh, you say Malfoy instead of Mal?
No, I say Malfoy.
Malfoy.
And I can't stop myself.
Okay.
If I'm just going, I'll say Malfoy. And I have to really slow down to say Malfoy.
Yeah, that's funny.
I don't know why. I just stick L's in there. But that section where you're chasing him, the blonde kid, on a broom. Yeah, I banged into walls like 15 times and like you get stuck and then you just like can't get unstuck. It's just like you back up a little bit and then you hit the same wall over and over again.
Well, and like the game doesn't really tell you what it wants from you. Like I went around that route that he takes you through like 3 times and I was like, what? Why hasn't this ended yet? And he was like yelling at me and I was like, okay, what? Obviously I'm not doing something right. And then I looked it up and it was like, no, you just gotta cut corners and catch him eventually. And I was like, oh, okay. But the game doesn't tell you that.
That's what I was wondering. Mm-hmm.
It was strange.
Because he drops does he drop circles?
No.
Because there's like little circle speed boost things. Okay.
I don't remember. I don't think he did. I remember just following him.
Yeah. So I guess then you just gotta cut him off.
Yeah. Now
I just chased him until I ran into him, I guess.
Yeah. The Quidditch section gives you the circles to like guide you so that as long as you follow the circles, like you'll catch up to the snitch. But the Malfoy section doesn't give you anything. It's just like, here we go. You're on a broom. Go stupid, go crazy.
True.
And you're like,
go stupid, go crazy.
Yeah.
And that's the section where you probably needed the most guidance.
Exactly.
Because it's your first time on the broom.
Yeah. And I was like,
a little strange.
I thought it was kind of jank how they handled that. But
personally, I feel like it should have just been a complete the course and then cutscene. Like maybe not actually having to catch him, because that's all the other broom sections is trying to catch something. Maybe for this one, you just complete the course. Yeah. Because it does drag on if you're failing to catch him.
Yeah. So, I was there for probably like 5 or 10 minutes, which felt way too long. Probably closer to 10 minutes, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So to summarize my little feeling on like whether or not you include Quidditch, I feel like you either include it or you don't. Like just
make a cutscene out of it.
Yeah, just I don't know. It'd be cool to have like a really all-encompassing Harry Potter game where there is Quidditch, and we'll get into this later whenever I bring up Wizard Chess after this. It would be cool. Like maybe in the Hogwarts Legacy game, I'm pretty sure there's Quidditch, but like if there was Wizard Chess and all these like sort of like side activities that are kind of like more fleshed out into being like real pieces of content as opposed to just like a really pared down version of Quidditch.
Yeah.
I don't know. That makes sense. I understand why it's not included, but it feels weird to have just like a half step of Quidditch. So, the Wizard Chess thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Wizard Chess is obviously important because in the final scenes, like the last, like challenge gauntlet thing that they do in the movies and books, there's like a big like life-size chess scene or like chessboard where they have to like beat this McGonagall AI to pass. And it's really cool. I really, that's like one of my favorite scenes in the whole series because it's like this whole stretch is like everyone gets to be utilized out of like Harry's little gang. So like Ron is apparently like this chess wizard. No pun intended, but
strategist.
Yeah, chess. He's good at chess.
Yeah.
He's apparently better than like a chess master or something.
Better than McGonagall, I guess.
Better than McGonagall. Again, this is not the most advanced security system.
No.
And it's a cool scene because like Ron will sacrifice himself and stuff like that. It's a very good scene in the book and movie, I feel like.
Good show of bravery.
It's also a huge meme. It's the movie version.
It is a little corny to me in the movie.
It is, but like as like whenever I saw that when I was younger, I was like, oh, that's so cool.
I always thought it was corny, specifically in the movie, because when his like horse, because he takes the place of a knight, so he's on a horse. When his horse gets destroyed, the horse just kind of like explodes and he just kind of like falls on the ground. It's like, why are you knocked out? Like, how did this knock you out? It doesn't look like it was that bad, but okay.
And we get that like cool moment at the end where like everyone's getting points for like their bravery and stuff. And it's like, you know, for the best game of chess Hogwarts has ever seen, it's like 50 points to Ron Weasley.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. In this game.
Can I tell you, when I got to this part and it gave me control, I audibly went, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. It's so strange. There's a lot of strangeness going on with the wizard chest scene. Wizard chess scene in this game because first of all, Ron is dead. You walk into the room and you see Ron like passed out, which is like
done. Yeah, and you're like, what happened?
And Harry and Hermione are like, well, I guess we've got to finish this chess game. Which is like, I guess it's implied that, I didn't think about this until now, but I guess it's implied that Ron was playing the chess game and got beaten.
Which is probably what would honestly happen had this like a more realistic version.
Yeah. So you got to finish the chess game, which is really just 3 pieces that all move like the king.
Yeah.
Fighting 3 pieces that just move like the king. It's very strange.
And also like, I don't remember if I had this. I think I had my king get destroyed and it wasn't a game over. Like, because I still had other pieces, it was okay. And I was like, what? Mm-hmm. That's not how chess works. Like,
yeah. I don't know. Like, do you think that chess would have been too much to put into like, what is a kid's game?
No, because, well, I don't know. It depends. I was going to say there's a PS1 chess game and like coding wise, well, for children that don't, if a kid doesn't know how to play chess, they're going to have one hell of a time trying to get past that little puzzle.
Yeah. Did you find chess to be like intimidating as a kid? Because
no,
I was always like, oh, that's so complicated. How could anyone learn that?
No, because how I was taught was my dad. I had to be like 5 or 6, and my dad just like sat me down with a chessboard and was like, okay, here's how these pieces move. And if I tried to move a piece illegally, he'd be like, no, that piece doesn't move that way. Or like I could like ask him questions and be like, can I do this? And then he would, as I was like learning to play, he would also point out to me and be like, this would be a good move. or if I was about to make a move that was bad, he'd be like, no, that's a bad move, and then explain why. So it was like a hand-holdy, but like good learning experience. My father was a good teacher. I'm not that great at chess though, neither is he, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, like, understanding the rules is like, because it's really a simple game if you break it down, because all you need to know is how the pieces move and what the win condition is.
Don't expose your king. Don't let your king get got.
I mean, like, yeah, everything past that is strategy. Like, if you understand how the pieces move and you understand how you win and lose the game, then that's enough to, like, play chess.
Right. I mean, so, like, when you show up, because of, like, the way the board is set up, like, you only have a few pieces. There's only a few pieces left on each side. And, I mean, if they would have went with that setup, but kept the chess pieces moving the same way, it would have turned into, like, this puzzle, because it's like, okay, here, you have to get a checkmate without, like, outright losing with the setup that we gave you, versus if you started with a fresh board with like Ron or something, then you could play it like a more normal game of chess. But I don't know how you would tune a chess AI for children. I don't know.
Here's my fun idea. Again, this would make more sense in like a really like immersive sort of Harry Potter Hogwarts game. I think it would have been cool because chess is introduced in the books and movies during Christmas.
Yeah.
Because you see like Ron and Harry playing it, and that's like the introduction to the thing that will be used later in the story. I think it would have been cool if there was like a similar to Gwent from the Witcher 3, where there's just like this side activity that you can participate in, and you work your way through like various students that like range in difficulty.
Yeah.
Maybe like, I don't know how many you go into, like maybe like 7 or 10, like just like a, you know, easy sort of
Neville's
easy,
at the
medium.
bottom.
I was going to say, here's my theory for it. My theory is that Ron would be at the bottom and also at the top. So he would be like,
yeah, he would teach you.
So it'd be like a little mystery.
And then come kick your ass.
Yeah. And so here's my thought process for how you would tie that in later. Because this is a kid's game, you're not trying to whoop these kids' asses.
Yeah.
Whatever difficulty they manage to beat, like let's say you force them to play Ron, who's very like going very, very easy on you at the beginning. You force them to play Ron in Christmas, just as like a tutorial thing. It's like, hey, here's how you play chess. And it's like you beat him. Maybe the difficulty of the chess game at the end could just be like a little bit less hard than the most difficult character you've beaten or something.
Yeah.
Because it's like a side activity that you're not necessarily forcing them to engage with.
It would be like act tuning sort of in the background. Yeah.
Or have Ron assist
Yeah.
you in making decisions.
Or maybe you could ask him for hints. Like there's like a hint button where it's like, Ron, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know. I think having the game be like half played would be best for pacing, though.
That's true.
Either way, Ron had been done very dirty in this game because that's like his moment to shine, and he still gets a shout out at the end. Because they're just like reusing the lines from the movie, where it's like, for the best game of chess ever played, Ron Weasley, and it's like, dude, Ron was dead like 2 seconds after walking into the room.
Right.
Like, we all defeated that like that vine boss thing.
Yeah.
Ron runs into the next room. We're like 2 seconds behind him and he's already dead by the time we get in there.
Well, also, so in the book, the Hermione's like time to shine is the logic puzzle that Potion, Snape has set up because of the potions. But in the game, in the movie, it's just, I had this fact memorized about the Devil's Snare.
Was that cut out of the movie as well?
The Devil's Snare? So it was
not the Devil's Snare, the potions. Were the potions cut out of the movie?
They were cut out of the movie. Also, in the book, the Devil's Snare is afraid of light, and so they cast like blue fire or whatever at it and make it like freak out. But in the movie, it's just just hold still and we'll slip right through it.
Right, yeah.
That's my best British child accent. But yeah.
So progression and pacing. The game is actually structured like a Zelda clone, which I did not know going into it, but honestly, that makes a lot of sense for like a Harry Potter game after having played it. Like going into it, I was like expecting a linear sort of, we're going to move from like scene to scene and like slowly progress and unlock new spells. But the sort of like, you have like an open hub world and then you have like these dungeon like classes.
And they have
you,
themes.
Like, learn a new spell.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that makes a lot of sense and works really well. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought sort of like having each dungeon themed around like a specific spell, it was really good for like introducing a new spell to you and then like giving you all the context, like slowly building up and teaching you all the context in which you need to use that spell. And then like as the dungeons progress, they get a little bit more complicated. So it's like, oh, if I see this button, I know I have to use Flipendo. Or if I see like this gargoyle or see like a blank wall, I know to use Lumos to check for like platforms and secret doors and stuff like that. So I thought, I thought they did a really good job with that. It was fun. It was enjoyable.
I thought it was one of the most impressive parts of the game because it's like something that I just didn't think of. Like I kind of always thought of Harry Potter as being like kind of difficult to adapt to a video game. Like thinking of Hogwarts Legacy and stuff, I'm like, is it just going to be like a third-person shooter with wands?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what the later Harry Potter movie games seem to be, like Deathly Hallows and stuff. It kind of seemed like a third-person shooter.
It's almost kind of like, this is going to sound weird, but like, in how like in Infamous, you like have like this like lightning hand and you can just like kind of like rapid fire.
Yeah.
Like you're just flinging lightning balls around and it's just kind of like crazy. And that's kind of, I think, what the later ones feel like.
That's what they looked like to me because it was just like rapid fire spells, like a machine gun, which was hilarious.
It's actually really funny.
Have you ever seen Harry Potter with guns?
No.
I'm taking a break from the podcast to show you
Okay.
this.
That has put this idea in my head though, of what if there's a wizard in the Harry Potter universe that's trained to say spells super fast like an auctioneer. And so like with his wand, it's just like a machine gun. And it's just like nobody can touch this guy because he just rattles off all these things, these spells and incantations. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know if this was like related to this discussion that I heard on Harry Potter, but I heard someone say that like the wands just become like guns. And there's so many scenes where they basically are just guns.
Yeah.
So they like went through and like replaced a bunch of the scenes with guns.
Oh my God.
If you go to like about 3 minutes in.
Okay.
Devil Snare hates sunlight.
Oh my God. Oh, okay. They do the sunlight. Oh my God.
So, yeah, Harry Potter with Guns HD is a fantastic video. It's got 12 million views.
It should, as it should.
But yeah, later games seemed very third-person shootery. But this game was much more like puzzly and like, you get these spells that interact with the world in a specific way. And as you acquire more spells, more of the world becomes accessible to you. Mainly the garden, really. The garden is like the one area of the game that actually like opens up. There's like a couple locked doors in the castle and a couple moments where you need to use like Incendio to light some torches or whatever to like unlock chests and stuff. But the garden area is where like a lot of was where you're kind of rewarded for acquiring more spells because you get to explore more of the garden. And it's done in a very linear way. It's not like, because you have to go there to like get the next potion ingredient and stuff like that. I think that like in a future game, I would hope that they kind of expand on the situations where you enter dungeons, because like it's pretty much just the gardens and the classrooms, but I feel like Harry or Hermione, like a group of them like exploring different areas on their own, like different sections of the castle or stuff like that, like outside of like a school setting would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Where it seems like there's more peril or something. To touch on like, or to expand on my thoughts about how like some characters are kind of shoved to the background. One of the biggest problems I have with Harry Potter as a whole, as I mentioned earlier, is the lack of emphasis on like Harry's relationship with other students. And like, we don't really get to learn about other students hardly at all. I feel like an area of the game where they could have easily like included more like world building that's like pertinent to like Harry's environment would be to do something like have a collectible similar to the wizard cards where you collect this thing and it gives you more information about Harry's world. Like, the wizard cards just tell you about, like, random dead wizards and stuff like that. Like, it's not really relevant in any way to the game.
Yeah. It's like kind of like an empty world building because it's not anything that you interact with.
It's kind of cool to have, like, you know, a bit of information because, like, the narrator will, like, read it to you and stuff. It's a lot like the codex entries in Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
But the codex entries in Mass Effect, like, actually have relevance to the game. They're not just, like, random bits of information about, like, some author that you never meet.
Exactly. Imagine a Mass Effect codex where it tells you about the Asari, but then you never meet the Asari. It's like, okay, what's the point then?
Or it's like you learn about, like, some Asari, like, famous figure that has no relevance to any Asari that you ever meet. Like, no one's, like, bringing up, like, the impact that they had on their culture or anything. Like it's just nonsense, really. And I wonder if, like, maybe there was some sort of, like red tape as far as, like, how much the creators of the game could, like, add to the story as it pertains to Harry. And maybe they were only allowed to talk about this sort of, like, non-essential stuff, like just random bits of information that they were probably allowed to make up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they were probably limited in some way. Well, especially because, like, at the time that this game came out, she probably wasn't done writing the books yet, was she? So they might have had to be careful to, like, don't put something in this game that contradicts something she's going to write later somehow, you know? I don't know.
So in playing Persona 5, I really love the whole dynamic of being in, like, a school setting and you, like, get to know your friends and, like, the people around you and, like, the relationships between everyone. That's, like, one of my favorite aspects of the school setting. And I feel like that's not really realized at all here. It's just kind of like a cool castle, but it doesn't really feel like a school.
Yeah. Well, and also I was shocked. So, like, as a kid, when I read the books, I always assumed that the class sizes were, like, really big. But
me too.
In, like, Harry's, I think, like, grade, quote unquote, if you want to call it that, his year or whatever, there's only, like, 8 boys, like, first year boys. And I was like, oh, so your class sizes are a lot smaller. So there's a lot less students than I thought, but whatever.
Which almost makes it, like, less of an excuse. Like, how cool would it be if, like, Harry's posse was, like, it included, like, Seamus and, like, it's hard to even remember their names because they're not that integral.
Seamus and Neville are kind of important. Is Lavender Brown? Lavender Brown becomes important later, but is she Gryffindor or is she something else?
I think she's Gryffindor.
Okay. And the Pavarti sisters or whatever.
Pavarti Patil, yeah.
Patil sisters rather. Sorry.
It's hard to remember because they barely have any impact on the story, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
To me, personally. I feel like as a franchise, they focus too much on Harry's relationship with adults.
With, like, 3 adults.
Yeah. I think part of the fun part about, like, kind of experiencing a story told through, like, a kid's perspective. In this first book, all the books kind of get it. I want a story where it's like, it's almost like the adults don't believe you and you kind of have to, like, work with the students and stuff like that to, like, get something done. It's like, oh my God, you know, Voldemort's trying to steal the Philosopher's Stone. We got to do something. And everyone's like, no, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Which is kind of what happens in this game. It's partially why this book is my favorite one. It feels like it captures the school vibe better than some of the later books where it's like, oh, you go to this new place and you meet, like, a couple people. I would have liked to just have that just expand every book. It's like Harry's crew becomes a little bit bigger. Let's move into the gameplay mechanics. The first one that I think is worth discussing is the camera. Morgan, I know you hated the camera.
I fought with that sucker the whole time, pretty much.
We still have not mastered cameras in this generation of games.
Nope.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is that it's like it had to maintain a certain distance from Harry, but it also had collision. So, like, you would just get in, like, tight spaces and you just, like, couldn't move it past a wall whenever you wanted to, or you had to, like, make a full rotation around. There's also, like, some very weird choices when it comes to, like, forced camera positioning. Like, if you enter a door or, like, just transition through a door, the camera will reset to facing Harry and the door that he just came out of. which is the opposite of what you want. You want to, because you're like walking forward, so then you just gotta swing the camera around every time, which is just like
it's very annoying.
It's strange.
Yeah.
There's a couple times where the camera is like fixed to like the corner of the room or something. Like if you enter like a tight space, they will do that a couple times. Most notably in the final boss fight, the camera's like fixed to the edge of the whole space.
Yeah.
That's when I ran into the most difficulty, because there's a part in the final boss where you have to aim without your targeting for like that Voldemort part where he like...
See, that didn't bother me so much because of the way like Lumos worked. Because like, you know, you hold it down to like build up power, and then you get like a decently like wide cone area of effect.
Yeah.
So like it didn't. I was pissed at that boss fight for other reasons.
I hate I don't like the Lumos cone thing as much, but I meant the second phase where like Voldemort will shoot you.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
Like, yeah, you have to like
Yes.
stand in front of the mirror, but you have to aim at him.
Yes.
Without your targeting, and you don't have like proper camera controls.
Okay.
I would like dip into the first person view, because you can go first person if you just like hold right trigger. You can see like Harry's perspective.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I would just like make an adjustment, check it in Harry's perspective, and then try to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
It was stupid. So this is a action platformer, but platforming is basically done for you. You run up to a ledge and it'll just jump. There's no jump button or anything like that. It's pretty simple. I have flung myself off into the abyss a couple times because there's not much like correction to your jump. So if you just kind of exit the platform at the wrong angle, you'll just like fling yourself into nothing.
Yeah, that's not great, but whatever.
But other than that, it's completely passable. Spongify is kind of like the only like movement based or like platforming, like a spell that would be like additive to the platforming. You can just like basically spring off of like a platform after you put a spell on it, which is pretty like, it's basically the same thing where you just run up to it and you get to the place you need to be. Mm-hmm. Nothing is particularly challenging. Combat is the main source of challenge in the game.
I would say it's also the worst aspect of the gameplay.
Yeah, probably. If you have the manual.
I do have the manual. I still have it open in a tab.
Just to reference it. So in the manual, you can actually see a description of every creature that you can encounter, minus the final boss.
Oh, you can also find copies of books in-game that will give you the same information.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Like the Folio Brood-Eye or whatever it is. I think that's what they're called.
I never ended up like re-referencing them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all pretty self-explanatory. Like
in the game, kind of leads you like, I don't know. There was never any enemy types where I was like, what the heck do I do?
I did have to look up the fire crab thing because I saw that you can like stun them with Flipendo, but I didn't like piece together that you're supposed to like knock them off the edge. So I did have to like look that up because I was stuck in one room because nothing was happening. And it turns out I had to kill the fire crab.
Yeah.
For the most part, you're just hitting stuff with Flipendo, which is the spell you start with. And that'll either like stun them so you can throw them in a cage or down a hole or knock them off the edge, or they'll just disintegrate. But that's like most of the enemies in the game. There's some ghost like enemies that you have to attack with Lumos, which is like a cone shaped like AoE, like you have to run at them while you're casting Lumos, and that'll do damage to them.
Yeah, so my main question, I see you have a note here that says that the targeting never felt as responsive as I wanted it to. That was my main issue, where it was like, okay, I would target onto something, and then it felt like Harry just like wouldn't turn and like look at it. Just look at it. And it kept like messing me up where I was like trying to target something, it wasn't responsive enough, so my spells were missing, and it's like, I guess it like frustrated me because like we mentioned, like the gameplay is like kind of a Zelda clone. And it's like, okay, then I am expecting that snappy responsiveness of Zelda targeting, because Zelda does it like perfectly. So I just wish they could have emulated that a little bit better.
I think it might have been nice if there was like strafing.
That too.
And, like the targeting where it's like, okay, you're at like this like pulled back sort of camera view when you're just like exploring, but if you target onto someone, it goes to like over the shoulder basically, or like above the head, but like pointed at who you're targeting. So you can kind of get a better idea of whenever like line of sight is broken, because you do need to like maintain line of sight to cast the spell at them, which is something that I struggled with at times, because you're like watching as like a third party observer from like the side, and you're trying to judge like what's in between these two people.
Yeah.
So
or also like I mean, like, I kept finding myself wanting to, like, have, like, more of a strafing ability, almost like Ratchet and Clank of all things. I was like, oh, I just want to, just, like, let me run side to side, man. Like, come on.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
And even when there's, like, multiple enemies, like, switching between which creature you wanted to hit. Like, if you were trying to stun, like, 2 imps at once, like, it would just, like, lock onto the imp that you are already stunned and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was really frustrating.
I think the combat is passable, assuming that you have built up some sort of tolerance to PlayStation 2 games of like mediocre quality. Like this is not like a super outlier as far as being like really frustrating. It's just by modern standards definitely lacking. How'd you feel about the boss fights? Because they're a bit more involved.
I remember the troll one being kind of finicky. So because like the troll boss fight, I think there's like no, I don't remember how many times there were. I want to say 2, but I think there might have been more than that.
I think there was actually more than that. There was
like 3 or 4 maybe.
Yeah, there was the first time, which is the time that you fight
the bathroom.
them, like in the girls' bathroom, yeah. Then there's a time you fight them in the garden.
There's one in like a courtyard in like the gardens, and then one time like by like the big like tree area.
Yeah, and it's like optional, I think.
Yeah, I think like that time it is.
Take another route to avoid him.
Yeah.
So yeah, like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
At least.
It was kind of like finicky to get him to like hit the springy platform. Because what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to cast Spongify on a like little tile on the ground and then get him to hit it with his club so that it'll fly back and hit him in the head. And I remember being a little frustrated because it was like I would lure him like right up to it and then he just like wouldn't hit it, and I'm like, come on, I just want this over with, because it takes like quite a while to kill one. So they have a lot of health.
I can't remember. Do they have like a health? Yeah, they do have a health bar.
Yeah.
It's finicky. I think both the like boss characters in the game, they're annoying, and you can kind of just like, but you can at the same time like abuse some of their animations and stuff, like their recovery animation for everything.
Yeah.
The troll, you can basically...
You just circle around him and just keep making him hit the same thing.
If you, like, time out his animation where he's, like, recovering from being hit in the head, you can basically stun lock him. You can just spongify the same area if you just maintain the correct distance, and he'll just hit it again and again and again.
Yeah. Without
having him, like, chase you around or anything. So I kind of figured that out, and, you know, it's, like, a little difficult to do consistently, but, like... Once I got that down, the trolls I thought were pretty easy. The other boss fight, the venomous tentacula, was more painful for me. How about you?
Yeah, I remember I didn't like that one because there was like a certain like spitting attack or something that I kept getting hit with. It was just really annoying. It just felt like really hard to get out of the way of it.
The spit could like basically stun lock you.
Yeah.
So you get hit and then you need to like stand back up, but by the time you're standing up,
it's spitting at you again.
Right about the time it's spitting at you again.
And I also remember, so like with the venomous, this is like the smaller plant, because you have to fight the devil's snare, right?
Yeah, and that's basically a venomous.
Yeah, it's like the same sort of thing. But the annoying thing about the venomous tentacula is there are multiple like targeting points on it, because I think you have to take out like the leaves or something on the side and then hit it in the head.
Yep.
And so I would like take out the leaves and then go to target the head, but it would just target the leaf on the ground again.
Oh, really?
And so I would like have to like fight with it a little bit to be like, no, target, because I was like trying to kill it as quick as possible before it recovered from me spamming spells at it. But yeah, that was kind of annoying.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty tough. It could like smack you with its leaf hands, or it could spit at you. But if you just like waited till right after it attacked to like hit it with Incendio, that would basically do it. And if you hit it like right after it like recovered from being hurt, you could just like, again, kind of just like abuse its animations and not really have to dodge anything after that. But yeah, still annoying because it can kind of do the same to you if you get hit with the spit.
Yeah,
so.
Hit with the spit.
Yeah, and the final boss fight, like we mentioned before, the first phase consists of using like Lumos on like 4 dogs that are chasing you around for like those ghost dog things.
Sorry, are we talking about the final boss fight now?
Final boss, yeah.
Hated it. I hated that so much.
The rough part for me was that when you die, you come back with like half of one health bar.
Yeah, that's kind of terrible, huh?
And that's it.
Yeah.
So I had to like figure out how to beat the boss without getting hit. Like, essentially.
I save state scummed it.
I was thinking about save state scumming whenever I was stuck in that.
That's the only time I used it too, was that fight.
I was sick from work one day, and I was actually doing the boss fight, and I was like, this is fun. I'm like, this is a perfectly fine time to do it, because it's like, when else am I going to have this much time to just like persevere through something so painful?
Yeah.
So
so how the boss fight works is you're in like this like arena, okay? Quirrell, spoiler alert, Professor Quirrell is the big bad of this book, movie, game, whatever.
Oh my god.
He's in the center and he's protected by a magical barrier. And there are chocolate frogs hopping around on the ground, but like once you pick up the frogs,
only once.
Yeah, you can only have them once, and if you die, the frogs, they don't come back, do they?
I think in most boss fights they did come back, but in this one specifically, they did not.
That sucks. Another thing that frustrated me was it was like sometimes really hard to read, because like when you cast the Lumos spell, I kept running into this issue where like I would hit the dogs with the area of effect for the spell, and they would like flinch and take like a little bit of damage, but then they wouldn't take any more. And I'd be like, so I had to. Like,
I don't know how that was supposed to work. Like,
I think you're supposed to keep them in the beam of it, because then like when there was something I changed a little bit, like where I was like staying a little bit closer to the dogs, and then they would take an initial chunk, and then it would like get bigger. Like I would like drain their health more as I stayed closer to them, but it was like kind of just finicky, like the distance you were supposed to stay away from them. And then the other thing that was giving me trouble was if you kill the dogs, Quirrell will drop the barrier for like a split second and then summon another dog.
Yeah.
That fucking was terrible, because it took me forever to like, because it was so hard to like trigger, to like lock onto him fast enough to hit him to stop him from doing it. So.
Yeah. You basically, once you knocked out one dog, you had to like get into the rhythm of, okay, I'm going to Lumos, and then I'm going to drive by on Quirrell and just hit him once.
Exactly, yeah.
And then Lumos, drive by on Quirrell, hit him once.
Yeah, I think I left some scathing notes, just a lot of angry swearing for that boss fight.
Yeah, it is. I saw a lot of your all caps notes. I try not to look at your notes, but when they're all caps, that just kind of catches my eye.
This fucking boss fight is atrocious in all caps.
No, yeah. So one of the strategies I had to adopt for that boss fight was to use those pillars, because the pillars like really throw off the dog's AI. Like they just like forget how to chase you. So that's what I had to start doing. There was also a couple times where I would like manage to catch all 4 dogs at once with like a Lumos, and I'm like, oh, so satisfying. I do think it's a big issue, like you mentioned before, like Lumos, because it's like a continuous beam basically. You expect that to do like continuous damage and not just one burst of damage. If you shot someone with Flipendo, you would expect that to do like one burst of damage, but like this continuous beam that you're holding over them should be doing like slow draining damage, but it's just like, it's confusing.
And because it's cone shaped, there were also situations where I was running into where I was like right smack in front of an enemy when I cast it, but they were just like a little bit left to like the narrowmost part of the cone and still hit me anyway. I was getting pissed. I was so pissed.
I think there's sometimes like if you were running at a dog and it like lunged at you, it would just like ignore Lumos and just like go.
Yes. Like it had like invincibility frames or something when it was in its lunge animation. Yeah, I remember that making me really mad.
Basically, pretty dumb boss fight. First phase especially. Second phase,
it's kind of a joke.
Yeah, it's not as hard as the first phase. You just stay in the line of sight of the mirror and run around whenever he tries to smash you with boulders, and that's it. So, yeah, and then you beat the game.
Yay.
So, stealth. Stealth is kind of a big part of this game. If you explore the castle at night, you have to sneak around past like hall monitors, which is, and it's so bad.
It's terrible.
It's really bad. I never even like tried to do any of them correctly. There's a couple forced stealth sections, like where you have to sneak into the library, with the cloak of invisibility, I might add, and you just have to I don't know. Could you figure that out? Like, because I couldn't. I was trying to like slow walk and like, oh, maybe they won't notice me if I slow walk. But it's like you had the cloak of invisibility on and it like did nothing for you.
Yeah, like
it felt like.
Their like field of vision was so strange, and there's no like indicator that tells you, hey, this is where their field of vision is, and that's the main problem. Again, I'm going to reference another game,
right? But
Sly Cooper does this perfectly, where it's like you have the flashlight guards, and you can literally see the flashlight on the ground. If you would have given the students like a Lumos spell, where it's like, hey, this is where they can see, and you have to, but no, you just kind of have to like wing it. I safe state scummed my way through this. You can also like halfway sprint your way through
that's what
a
I
lot
had
of
to
them.
do. Yeah.
And that's what I did.
I sprinted through all of them and just waited till I got lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This is probably one of the worst stealth implementations I've seen in any game because it's just like an instant catch.
Yes.
But I mean, basically, it's not like they see you and it's over. It's like they see you and
fling a spell that you can't avoid usually. Unless sometimes they did miss. But
they can miss, yes. But you have to like break line of sight for them to miss, essentially.
There was one point where it was a section where I had to, I think, get outside of Hogwarts at night or something like that. And there were, in like the entrance hall, there were these two goobers that were running around. And I got caught by them. And then I came from the door that leads to the dormitories. Yeah. I got caught by those goobers. And then I respawned right next to the door that goes outside. So I was like, oh, cool. So I don't have to do that. They just teleported me.
I think that was when we needed to go to Hagrid's.
Yeah.
And that same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
It was so fun. Yeah.
I was just like, oh, okay.
Also, I don't think there's any guards outside. So
there's not.
It's kind of funny too.
Well, no. Actually, wait. I think there might be some walking on the trail. There's like a little crappy gravel trail looking thing.
Oh, maybe.
And I don't remember if there were people there or not. There might have been. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, stealth horrible. If you're looking like, I cannot think of any stealth in any game that I've played that's like much worse than this.
Yeah, I can't either.
Pac-Man is a better stealth game than this game. It's really poor. I do like the idea of that being a aspect of the game. It's just done so poorly that it's like, because the idea of like sneaking around a castle you're not supposed to be around, it's like that's a big part of the books. Sorry, just squeaky chair. I'm gonna get a new chair eventually.
Okay.
It's like a big part of the books is like sneaking around the castle at night and stuff, and it's like fun. I don't know, like that concept of like, oh, I'm out and I'm sneaking around. I'm not supposed to be here, but it's just so frustrating the way that it's done. I think, like you mentioned, like some sort of indication of what like the patrols can see would have alleviated a lot of that frustration, just to like understand why you're getting caught and stuff like that. That's all I got to say about stealth. Let's talk about health.
Haha, rhymes.
I put a health section here.
Yeah.
Just because I noticed we both had the same note about there being some sort of way to increase your maximum health, but we don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right in that it did have something to do with the amount of chocolate frog cards you collected, because by the end of the game, I had 3 health bars.
Okay. So I think I just had 2. And other than that, you just like refill your health through like finding cauldron cakes and
pumpkin pasties. Yeah. So there is actually, so you know how when you brew potions in potions class, so after the first round, there is a potion that becomes available in that classroom, and you get an empty potion bottle, and you can fill it up from the cauldron in the classroom and get a potion that restores your health. I never used it, but that is a thing that you can do.
I think I did that once, and I used it during the final boss fight.
Okay. So what I would do, because there was no like good way other than that, as far as I'm aware, to restore your health. So like I would come out of a dungeon all beat up, and then I would just run to potions and fill up and like chug a few potions real quick, and then grab one last one for the road and take off again.
Yeah. That makes sense. Very Dark Souls-like.
Yeah. One thing that I did not like about the dungeons and about like the healing via opening chests thing was the first time I got stuck in this game. It was in the first dungeon, and you're supposed to find an owl treat to get Hedwig to land on like a little like stand in the middle of the room. Prior to that, I had only ever gotten healing items from chests. So I was running around not knowing how to like proceed. I just had to go and open every single chest for like what I thought was full of healing items to heal my already full health, and then find an owl treat and then take it back to the stand. And I thought that was stupid, that there was no like separate, like, I think it would have been better if there was like
dungeon chest.
Yeah, if there was like this is the container for healing items and this is the container for owl treats. Like if there was some visual way to distinguish the two, that would have been better. But
I think so too. I was always out of health, so I needed to open every chest, so I didn't run into that. Also, the game in general is very stingy with health. I don't think there's any moment in the game where health is automatically restored.
I don't think so.
Ending a day or...
Yeah, and you think that it would. Like...
Anything like that, yeah. So I was always like barely living.
Yeah.
Just barely had any health.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a strange aspect of this children's game. Not very forgiving in the health department. If you want to quickly like run over the spells, just if any of these, I just listed them here. It's a pretty short list. It's, what is that? 6? You got Flipendo, Lumos, Alohomora, Spongify, Defendo, and Incendio. And for the most part, they're all like Lumos and Flipendo are like combat spells. For the most part, Lumos also has like other. They both have like uses outside
pressing
of
buttons,
combat.
lighting up hidden doors and walls.
Yeah, doesn't it have something else like
detecting floor traps?
I think was that only used in that one section.
I don't remember.
I feel like it was, or at least I can't remember any other instance.
Oh, and you were also supposed to, like the gargoyle statues, you're supposed to light up the That one didn't make a lot of sense to me, because I'm like, why would I think to? I mean, I figured it out, but like, why does that make sense?
You do it once.
Yeah.
You do it once, and it's like, okay, I guess I'll do this every time. But it is a little strange. Alohomora, Spongify, Defendo, Incendio. Incendio is also another attack, but those 3 spells, they're basically just like keys. Like you press this button to do the thing, and then you press the other button. It's like press the Spongify button to jump, or press the Defendo button to cut a rope.
Yeah.
So it's pretty like, I don't know. There's a couple times where you like use them for other gameplay related things, but they're pretty straightforward. It's just like you unlocked the green key in like Resident Evil or something. It's like now you can open green doors.
Pretty much.
It's pretty much what it boils down to.
Yeah, I will say that like as for it being a kid's game, I think it did a good job of like making sure that each indicator for each spell was like visually distinct. Like you know when you see the big yellow lock that you're supposed to unlock it with Alohomora. Or the purple curtain. Then you cut because with the big scissor print on it, and then you know what to use.
Did you have a favorite spell?
No, I didn't really care. You know what? I think by the end I was fed up with using any spells, because every single time you use one, Harry has to scream about it, and that gets really old. Flipendo.
It's very annoying. Flipendo. Lumos.
Yeah.
Lumos. Yeah.
Incendio. It gets to be a bit much.
Stupid little British accent. I really liked Alohomora, probably because you only use it like 10 times. That's it.
Doesn't overstay its welcome.
So, I just thought the door like lock was cool. Yeah. That's the main reason I liked it. Spongify was also fun to jump on.
Spongify.
Yeah. There's also stink pellets and dung bombs. I didn't use them. But I never used them.
I didn't bother. I was like, oh, consumable? Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
When I was like beating my head against the wall in the final boss fight, I was like, oh, I have stink pellets. This will save me. And I tried to like throw one down, and it like missed, and I just got hit and died. And it was like... So, yeah, I didn't really know what they did. I never visited George's shop. George and Fred's shop past that first time.
I think I went there a couple times. Also, there's like a guard. Like there's like a mini stealth section you have to get around to get there. And that's like, why? It's just annoying.
I think that's always Percy too, which is kind of funny.
Oh, it is Percy. I didn't realize that.
I think so.
I bought a couple wallet expansions because again, kind of like Zelda, where when your bean bag gets full, you can't pick up any more beans. And then
your bean bag.
I used there's like a gambling chest where it's like spend 25 beans and we'll give you a random something or other. And I was like, okay. And I spent a bunch of beans in that. And then I think after that, I didn't really go back. So
I think I did the same thing. I never expanded my bean wallet.
there's no real reason to. Like, you don't.
No, yeah, you don't really get too much from going there unless you're using the dung bombs and stuff like that, I guess. But there was a point where I couldn't collect any more beans, and I was like convinced that there was some sort of glitch. Because I forgot that it was limited.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was like a little hack because then you didn't have to hear Harry shout out the color of every bean as he picked them up.
Bogey flavor.
I can't even.
Peppermint.
I was going to make more fun of this, but I can't remember many more other than bogey.
Spinach flavor.
Grass flavor.
Ooh, grass flavor.
Yeah.
I don't even remember most of the good ones. Oh, chocolate. Was there a chocolate one? I don't remember.
Maybe.
Yeah, that gets, especially when you would pick up like a bundle of them and he would be like,
He would just cut himself off.
Like all at once.
Like
a cocktail of sound bites. Wonderful.
Yeah, it was, especially because it's in the first area at Ollivander's shop. It's just like there's so many. It's just like an onslaught of voice lines cutting each other off.
Really good opening experience.
Yeah, I feel like some of this really should have been like picked up on in QA.
Yeah.
Like, hey, maybe not. Maybe
make him
maybe
shut
this isn't
up.
where we should do. Yeah.
Or like a 25% chance of him like saying something. I feel sorry. I feel sorry for all the patient parents out there who bought their children this game and let them play it on like the living room TV set back in the day and had to listen to Bogey Flipendo. Like
Flipendo. There's like 4 voice lines in this game.
Actually,
it didn't help that.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't think there was any variations of like any of the repeats. So,
well, I was going to say, I think as far as like annoying overusing voice lines go, this one has TMNT beat. Like TMNT is not that bad compared to this one.
I think you're right. I agree with that. I mean, at least they would say other things.
Yeah.
I don't know, in TMNT. Yeah.
But at least it wasn't like this constant.
Okay, you want to touch on the level design?
Yeah.
So, like we mentioned before, the explorable areas are basically broken up to like inside the castle, outside the castle, and then the gardens, which is kind of like a separate area.
I think calling outside the castle an exploration area is a little bit generous because that's more like a flat 2D plane. It's just an empty lawn.
It is an empty lawn. In the aesthetic section for outside the castle, it is a barren wasteland. But, Morgan, hear me out on this. Something very liminal about outside the gardens.
It's
the Hogwarts grounds.
The Hogwarts, yeah. I think it has to do with the lighting. Because I remember the lighting being like, it is like noon. So like all of like the shadows are like directly under everything. Like the light's just kind of eerie. There's no students or anybody walking around aside from like Ron and Hermione, like little specks in the distance running away from you. And you're like, where am I? Like,
Also, contributing to that is the lack of music for like most of the game. Like there's not a constant soundtrack or anything. It's just like music during certain parts. And it just like gives you a weird feeling. Like the first time I went out into like explore the castle and stuff, like it almost felt like I was like out of bounds or something in the game.
Like I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, it was strange. It feels like the level of detail in like a like PS1 or N64 game.
Yeah,
like it feels like that level of angular and like very, very basic.
Yeah, compared to like the inside of the castle and the dungeons and the like the greenhouse and the like Forbidden Forest areas, like it made all that feel a lot more like richer and detailed just because the lawns were so barren.
Yeah. I mean, every other area in the game is like kind of all right. I think some of the corridors of the castle are pretty samey.
Yeah, they are.
Outside the castle is just like weird. There's like an inconsistency in the quality that's just very off-putting with that.
It's kind of jarring.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen more like unique sections of the castle to explore because I personally felt very compelled to like explore the whole castle. Like there was like a cozy feeling that it like it was definitely trying to invoke, and it like kind of worked on me. Like I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice. It's like it feels pretty dead. Like there's not a lot of students or anything in there, but it's like almost there.
Yeah, I think for me, like the color palettes are very like inside the castle are very like rich, like the stone color and like all the in like the grand like staircase area, like all the paintings on the walls, and it's all these like bright, happy colors, and you're just like, oh, okay.
I think that if I was playing this as a kid, this would have felt like a pretty like, I don't know, this would have like probably spoke to me as being like, oh my gosh, I want to just like live here. Like this is just so unique and magical. Like, it's like got spooky parts too, which I feel like I have like this close tie in my head with like spooky and cozy. It's almost like I need both of them to feel either. Like when we talk about like cozy games, like Resident Evil, where it's like I do feel cozy at points in that game, where it's like you make it to like a safe space, and it's like I feel safe. Like
yeah.
The game rarely betrays your trust. I don't think I've ever in that whole series whenever you're in like a safe space.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just like, it feels very safe. And like Resident Evil 2 Remake, it does such a good job at this because like the safe spaces are very warm. So like the lighting will change and it'll be very like
and then you're like,
safe.
Here I am.
And then like compared to like outside of the safe zones where it gets like cool and like, you know, dark and like the lighting feels much more harsh. It's like a really cool like visual distinction between the two areas. So like in this game, exploring the castle and stuff like that, where it's like all empty and like the dungeon area and stuff, it's like it's still like contributed to like a cozy like feeling in my head or something.
Yeah. So you think the dungeons are one of the game's biggest strengths. I agree. And one of the things that I was going to point out, so like the dungeons, you can come back to them and like run through them again whenever you want.
Oh, really?
And the reason why that's like sort of like interesting. So you know how I mentioned how there's like the house like seal or whatever collectibles that you can pick up, and then that affects your grade and that affects how much like points you get or whatever.
Yeah.
Within the dungeons, there are like side areas that are only accessible once you've gotten all of the spells. So the only dungeon,
really?
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember in the first dungeon, there's actually like Diffindo curtains that you can't get through on the first playthrough because you don't have the spell yet.
I forgot about that.
And there's like extra, I think there's like chocolate frogs and the house seals hidden behind those. Which that was the only one I replayed. You don't have to do them. I don't think you have to replay them to get the house cup in one go.
A little bit Metroidvania-ish with unlocking abilities and revisiting places.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And I thought it was cool how they like tried to make the dungeons like worth revisiting later in the game. So yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't even I did that completely. I missed that entirely. So
yeah.
I think that's good and fine. It's a little bit. I think in Zelda you normally just complete a dungeon, so
yeah,
that's a bit of a deviation from that sort of formula. But yeah, I think that works. Yeah, I totally, as you mentioned, I do think that like the biggest strong point in this game is the utilization of dungeons, because I just think that that's like such like a rock solid formula for a Harry Potter game. Like you unlock a spell and then it's like a dungeon that's like tailored to using the spell. Sometimes it was just based around unlocking the spell. Like you unlocked it at the end and then you moved on. But most of the time you unlocked it like at the beginning or like halfway through. And you had to like use it to get through that dungeon, which I really liked.
Yeah.
I put the garden here. Do you have anything?
Anything I had to say about the garden like applies to what I said about the dungeons. It's just like a dungeon with a different skin.
It really is.
Kinda.
Yeah. They're pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Were the potions optional?
I think they might have been, because I think Snape would just be like, oh, if you don't show up without your ingredients, I'll deduct points, which to me implies that you could just show up without the potion ingredients.
Yeah. I collected all the potion ingredients.
Same.
But I do wonder if like you maybe would have been forced to go and collect them. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
it doesn't feel like it should be optional. The game is pretty short. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that would make sense. We've already touched on it a little bit, but do you want to jump into the aesthetic section? Or do you have anything else to say about level design?
I don't think so.
So as far as like general like graphical quality, it's not particularly impressive, as we mentioned earlier, with like the outside, I don't know what you call it. The Hogwarts like grounds or whatever are not like super
The lawns.
well utilized or detail. Empty. Yeah. The character models also kind of suck. And there's a lot of factors contributing to how like poorly they come across. There's so like every time you leave a classroom, there's like a cutscene that plays. It's like very slow. They're slowly walking. Oh, I don't know if this looked different for you through an emulator. But for me, it would be like they very slowly walk through like a door, and there's just like this really ugly, harsh. I don't remember if it was underlighting, but it felt like they were underlit, where it was like casting very like weird shadows on their face, and just made all these kids look like really ugly, wrinkly babies.
Oh, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, and it's just like an angle where it's like kind of tight, like it feels like the equivalent of like a tight focal length, where it's like everything feels pretty compressed, and they're like slowly walking towards you at eye level. It's just very strange, and it really like emphasizes how ugly some of these character models look.
Yeah.
During gameplay itself, it's not bad because you're like far away and stuff like that.
I was going to say, you're staring at the back of his head and his cloak flapping wildly as he's sprinting everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. Which I liked. I liked how his cloak looked when he was running around.
Yeah.
It like added to him seeming like a little kid, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like he's got this big cloak on, it's just flopping around. But yeah, there was just like certain moments in the game where everything looked really ugly, and it was like, why'd you do that? Like you made the decision to show the like character models in this way, and it just looks so bad.
Yeah.
So voice acting is one of the, so like the voice acting itself, like the people, their performance as like Harry or whatever, I thought was fine for the most part. Like the person behind the person actually talking. I don't know why I'm struggling to say that.
The voice actor?
The person talking, the voice actor. Yeah. Thank you. There was just like some factors surrounding that I felt like were really bringing that performance down. It kind of felt ASMR-ish with like the proximity to the microphone. Like it felt like they were whispering, and it was very loud. Like anytime Harry picked up a bean, he'd be like, ooh, bogey flavor, or a pumpkin pasty. Like it felt like he was whispering, but like it felt very loud.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It gave it like a weird, like he's in my ear sort of feeling.
Yeah.
Which was a little uncomfortable. So that was strange. The writing is also pretty rough. When they're not lifting lines from like the movie. Oh yeah, like when they meet Ron and Hermione. I don't know if you remember this part.
I don't.
But it was like, so in the game they meet after the sorting ceremony, and they all meet at the same time. And in the movies, in the books, obviously they meet on the train. But after the sorting ceremony, Ron comes up. He's like, "Hi, Harry. My name's Ron. My brothers go to Gryffindor. I'm in Gryffindor too. I got this shirt that says R because my mom made it for me, and it says R, and I've got 7 brothers, and they're all there." And it's like, "Oh, who's this? Hi, I'm Hermione."
Yeah.
We should really get going now.
We are your developer-appointed tour guides.
Yeah. It was just like rapid fire exposition. Then it was like cut off by someone else giving rapid fire exposition and like guiding you to the next area.
Yeah, I do remember that feeling like very jarring and being like, oh, okay, hello. like this, it had like the same energy of like being a kid in preschool, and some kid you've never met before in your life walks up to you like, "Hello, let's be friends," and you're just like, okay, like We're friends now because I am here and talking to you and introducing myself. That means we're friends. Okay, sure.
I've been in the same room as you for the past 50 minutes, and that's a significant percentage of my life.
Exactly.
We're like best friends now. That reminds me. There's like a weird, in the manual, it lists all of Harry's allies. Like, it's like Harry will accomplish his quest through the help of the brilliant Hermione, the lovable Hagrid, and the wise Dumbledore. And it just like cuts out Ron entirely, and I just thought that was really funny.
Ron, he's got a dumb sweater and he lost at chess, so he's a loser.
Oh, yeah. That covers pretty much everything I have. Oh, one last thing, the music. So we mentioned that the music isn't like super present. There's like a lot of sections where it's just, I don't even think there's sound effects sometimes. It's just like nothing. If you're standing still, you just hear nothing, which is very strange. Most games do not do that.
Especially for a kid's game. That seems kind of odd.
Imagine like a kid being like, oh, it's quiet, let me crank up the volume. And then it's just flipendo, a pumpkin pasty, a pumpkin pasty. Yeah. That being said, I did enjoy the music whenever it was present. It's not John Williams. Who is it?
I would assume not.
It's someone else. I feel like they did a good enough job though. I felt like I got fun.
It's got the right vibes.
It's got the vibes.
So it's got a little flourishy sounds. We don't know music terminology. Once again, disclaimer, don't expect it. We know nothing.
Yeah, don't come to us for music. We should do another podcast where we review albums.
Without knowing any musical terms. I liked when it sounded that way. I remember
Morgan, how'd you feel about the time where it went ba-dum, 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 ba-dum?
Doesn't this ATV Off-Road Fury song sound like something you'd hear in a garage? A garage band?
It sounds like something I'd hear in like the Dust Bowl.
Yeah, this song sounds dusty. Sorry.
Yeah, it sounds dusty. Yeah, it's hard to compete with John Williams though. So I didn't realize, because again, musical idiot over here. I didn't realize that John Williams did Harry Potter, Star Wars,
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones. Who else? Did a lot of stuff, basically. It's like he's done everything, it feels like, which is crazy. He's like...
Did he do Jurassic Park?
Jurassic Park, that was the other
one,
yeah. Yep. Yeah, a lot of stuff. That covers everything that I have for aesthetics.
Same.
Do you want to talk about anything else before we move into recommendations?
Sorry, let me scroll through my notes really quick. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I got everything off my chest.
Draco looks like a weird baby.
I have this note. There is one point in the game where you sneak out at night to go meet Draco for a wizard duel, and you fall through a trap door. And I'm like, how did this child set up a trap door?
Yeah, that's right.
In the hallway.
It's not the other trap door that leads to the gauntlet. It's just a trap door. Yeah. It's strange.
Oh, there was that one point where I was going to potions class and I went through the door, and on the other side, I got to the other side of the door and nothing loaded. So I was just standing in a black void and I could see through walls.
Yeah. I saw your little screenshot.
Yeah. Oh, I also said the game does not do a good job of prompting you of when to end the day or end like the nighttime. Because you have to like go into the menu and like interact with your remember all or whatever and like hit a button to end the day.
Oh, I was just gonna say like I've started reading the manual before I play the games now.
Oh, yeah.
And I that's something that it touched on that I probably would have missed as well.
Okay.
So
yeah, I just I've been raw dogging it still.
I feel like games like in this era, I really think they expect you to like read the manual.
They probably
or keep it handy or something.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff that just is kind of rushed over or touched on once, and then it's like it doesn't bring it up again, which is not like ideal. I think the way we do games now, where everything is available in the game, is definitely the best. But yeah.
But yeah, that was it. That was my last couple notes.
Harry's eyes are green.
Yeah.
My wife wanted me to point that out. My wife. Oh yeah, I didn't really understand how saving worked. Like
I thought it was just auto-saving.
I thought it was auto-saving too, but like you could also save the game, but it wouldn't save you where you are, which I thought was weird. It would just like restart you at like that day or like a checkpoint or something. I don't know about you, because you were playing on an emulator. This will be relevant to what we talk about in the recommendation section, but frame rate dips and long load times were a big annoyance for me.
Oh, I didn't notice anything like that, actually.
Yeah, it might have been helped by the emulation or like playing through like a PC.
My big beefy PC.
Big beefy PC.
Big beautiful PC.
But yeah, that was kind of an annoying part of playing on a PS2. This game, you can just play this if you don't really care about Harry Potter, I guess. But it's really like supplemental material.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you can't follow the narrative in any way through this. And in some sense, it's almost required to like have an idea of where to go or what you should be doing. And in some sense, like I always kind of knew like what the next thing I was supposed to do was, because it's like it's following the movie or the books. I guess I was going to ask, like, do you think that that's like a sound way to design a game? Or do you think that if you're making a movie tie-in that you should pretty much beat for beat retell like the movie? Or do you think it should be like kind of like this where it's like just bits and pieces?
Honestly, it varies on a case-by-case basis, because like not every movie is so well suited to be turned into a game. You know, I think it's good to try and work in as many elements from the source material as you can, but I think it should be your priority to make a good game instead of making a movie accurate game.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're here to play the game. You're not here to watch the movie, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. So like kind of ignore most, like just take what you need to.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
Like a fan fiction. No.
Like a fan fiction.
Or Snape Wife. Yeah.
I'm ready to move on to the recommendation section.
Yeah.
You can play this game on, well, first of all, there's 5 versions of the game. The version that we played is the PlayStation 2 version, which is the same as the Xbox and GameCube version. There is also a PlayStation 1 version, a PC version, and a Game Boy Advance version, and a Game Boy Color version. Those are 2 separate versions. Of all the versions, it seems like a lot of people are very fond of the PlayStation 1 version of the game. I don't know if they necessarily prefer it, because the PlayStation 2 version was released a couple years later. So maybe if they were all compared directly, most people would prefer or could prefer the newer one. I'm not sure. Did you see any of the PS1 game or?
I watched a video, I don't think it was the one you linked me, that was comparing all the different versions. And that reviewer seemed to have the most fond memories of the PS1 version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I watched it a little bit. I was surprised how warbly the graphics were.
Yeah.
And that was something that was pointed out by a lot of people. Is that it's just like.
Wibble wobble.
So bendy. Yeah, which is apparently just like a PlayStation 1 thing. Like
it is.
A lot of games kind of have that. So that was interesting. I didn't play it or look into like a full playthrough or anything. I just kind of saw a little bit of gameplay clips, but a lot of people seem to like it. It sold extremely well. It sold like 8 million copies for a PlayStation 1 game. That's kind
impressive,
of insane. I think it was like, it was up there as far as like best-selling PlayStation 1 titles, like when it was all said and done. So quite a lot of units sold, which is neat. The PC game is, I think, a third-person action game similar to the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 versions. I think there was like more like side activity gimmicky things, like a drawing. I like to stick L's in words. Drawing. Like drawing out spells. So I don't know. I only saw a little bit of it. Game Boy Advance version was like a puzzle game, and the Game Boy Color game was like a turn-based RPG, which was neat. It's very strange to have like 15 different versions of a game.
Yeah.
It's such like a movie tie-in type thing too. So, yep. Do you have anything to say about these other versions?
No, except I'm pretty sure every single one was made by a different team. So that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say that the 2 handheld versions were made by the same people.
They might have been.
I'm not sure, though.
I don't remember.
So potential overlap there. if you're looking to pick up the game on PS2, it's going to set you back a pretty penny. It's the PS2, Xbox versions, both around 70 bones. GameCube has that little bit of GameCube tax, putting it at 80 bones, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Far too much to pay for this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't.
We've talked about a couple like pretty cheap games up until this point. Yeah, that's too much. I was not expecting it to be so much money.
Yeah, that's kind of. I don't know why. Because, like, yeah, it's not that great.
No. Maybe it could be like rare. It's like it's because it came out after Chamber of Secrets, and a lot of people like said this is worse than Chamber of Secrets. I don't know if it's like harder to come by or what. I don't know. PlayStation 1 version's like $20. PC version's like 20 bones. The 2 handheld versions are like $15. Mm-hmm. It's weird that these versions of the game are so expensive. So, do you recommend this game, Morgan?
Was it bad? Was it the worst thing we've played? No.
No.
I still think that goes to Oni.
Yeah, probably.
Unless you're like, I really need to experience every single Harry Potter game, then no. I think that's where I stand.
Yeah. For me, I was kind of like, if you're at if there's a Venn diagram of Harry Potter fans and PlayStation 2 fans, and by PlayStation 2 fans, I just mean like people who can tolerate PlayStation 2 jank.
Yeah.
Of some of like the crappier games, like some of the stuff that was like typical of this era. If you're in the middle, then I think, yeah, you could play it. Mm-hmm. It's not even like I necessarily recommend it. It's just like, yeah, you could play it.
Yeah, it is an option.
I think that the only thing that, I think that like I'm a big Harry Potter fan and I love PlayStation 2 games. I hate PlayStation 2 games actually.
This podcast is torture for me, but I do it every week just for you people. No.
Yeah. I love this generation of games and I love Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. So the fan service of it being a Harry Potter game was like enough to like, it pulled me through like the PlayStation 2 kind of jank of some of these lower tier games.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I was able to enjoy it. If you're one of the freaks like me, then, you can probably find something to enjoy there.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. I would not deter you from playing the game.
I wouldn't say, wait, don't do that.
Yeah, if you were starting to put in like the Oni disc, I'd be like, hold on, I have to warn you,
You put your hand over their hand as they're putting it in, like, wait.
I pinch the disc out of their hand and throw it out the window. I'm like, we can't. We're not doing that. Yeah.
It's tolerable. It's like, objectively, it's probably bad if you can rate games objectively. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fan service, and that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's like, he's doing the flipendo, which is apparently a made-up spell, I think, for the game.
Yeah, it is. If you are going to play it, also, just maybe headphones. Maybe don't do it on a communal TV. Don't inflict the voice lines on your family members or your roommates or whoever. Your pets, maybe. I don't know.
Perfectly tolerable podcast game. You could just turn on a podcast.
Yes. Turn down
do whatever.
Yeah, turn down the game volume, listen to a podcast. Mm-hmm. Yeah, listen to our podcast while you play.
Yes, listen to our podcast on repeat, 5 different devices at a time. Please.
Shoot those numbers up, baby. No.
Yeah, so that's all I got to say about the recommendation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the future of Harry Potter as we see it, and as it relates to video games. Up until this point, like I mentioned before, I kind of struggled envisioning like how Harry Potter would work. I think I was tainted by the like later movie game adaptations where it's like a weird third-person shooter, and I'm like, that's dumb. But after playing this, it's like a Zelda clone, and I think that works really, really well. Mm-hmm. Like unlocking spells and just being able to visit new areas because you unlock spells. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. We sort of like hinted about this, or sort of like discussed this a good amount when Claire was here, about how I am kind of the stance where the anything Harry Potter related going forward is a bit of a sticky topic for me because of JKR and how she is. So I don't really know how to approach it. In a perfect world where JKR was not an asshole, I would agree with the Zelda clone sort of like line of gameplay, definitely.
I don't really know what J.K. Rowling did. But
Okay.
I don't, I'm not necessarily deterred from participating in Harry Potter stuff currently. So like Hogwarts Legacy, when that comes out, I'll probably wait for a sale. I haven't paid $70 for a game yet.
That's good.
Yeah. And it probably wouldn't be Hogwarts Legacy to break me of that. Because it looks pretty generic. But like at the same time, it's like if I can explore Hogwarts and it's fun and it's like in depth and it's like, oh, it's like this game where it's like, you got the staircase and like a couple of cool areas, but it's like, it's not the same like boring corridors and, it's like actually rewarding your exploration. Then that would probably be enough for me to like sit down with it for a while and like check out the castle.
Yeah.
So yeah, remakes. Could they ever attempt to like redo this? I mean, they would have to like redo the series.
Yeah.
If they were to do that, is there anything from this game that should be axed, or some things that from this game that they should focus on? Like, okay, we're gonna do more of this because this worked. Maybe we cut out this because this did not work.
They need to fix the combat and
yeah, I think they could modernize the combat and have it work.
yeah. I wouldn't be opposed to them expanding the spell library.
Yeah, I think just a few more spells would flesh it out a little bit. Maybe a couple, I don't want to say like Souls-like combat, but like a system of like, hey, maybe you just have to time the spell. Like maybe they're blocking and you have to wait for them to like attack and miss or something like that. I don't know. Like get some new enemies in there.
Yeah.
Just something a little bit more complicated. Just not something more than like gnomes you got to just stun and throw into a hole.
Yeah.
Like,
dial back the voice lines and work on your writing a little bit. And then you're probably fine.
Yeah, so really just like take the idea of this game of where it's like, hey, we're going to go through some like dungeons, unlock spells. That's the main thing you should be taking from this game. Make the castle grounds like more interesting and make the inside the castle section have something that makes it worth exploring, not just the same stone corridors everywhere. Flesh out the supporting cast and characters, I think would be another important aspect of the game. Maybe take it slower. This game was pretty fast-paced. Maybe take it slower and enjoy a little bit more of the, maybe a little bit closer to the story of the books in the game or the movie. So you mentioned this already, that you're not too interested in like another, any entry into like, I don't know, what do you call like the Harry Potter universe?
Franchise?
Wizarding world?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
was the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Okay.
That works.
Yeah, I mean, like, do you see like a bright future for, obviously having not played Hogwarts Legacy yet or seen much about it, could you see like a bright future for Harry Potter, or do you think J.K. Rowling is kind of like tainted the brand beyond
I think
some word that I can't think of?
Yeah, I think they would have to, if Harry Potter were to move forward in like a way where people weren't so pissed about it, I think you would have to cut her involvement. I think she would have to just like basically step down and be like, hand off the rights to some other creative whatever. And I think you would have to move forward with like a new cast of characters.
Yeah, I'd love that.
You would love that, you said?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just because like there's some things, again, like the deadly fat phobia, the non-white characters having very stereotypical sounding names. Like Cho Chang is the Asian girl.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like, stuff like that. Just,
Lee Jordan.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's the black kid.
I don't know if Lee is a stereotypical black. I mean, I definitely know like a lot of fictional characters that have the name Lee.
Yeah, I don't really know about that. Well, also like, I mean, I don't know I don't know what the differences are between like American stereotypical names and like British stereotypical names. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know.
Didn't she, I heard at one point that she got the names for a lot of characters from like tombstones.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I think Claire mentioned that.
Oh.
So I'm gonna tell you a story from Claire that I barely remember, and it may not be true, but I believe that the like Godric's Hollow, which is where I think like
that's where Harry's parents lived.
Were built, or yeah, I think that may be a real place.
Huh.
Maybe, and that I believe is where she got a lot of the names for the first book. Again, there's probably I think that idea is generally correct. The different aspects of that may be false. So
yeah,
something about that is correct.
Here's the thing. Okay,
and that's our podcast, everybody.
Yeah. If you know what, okay, I'm just gonna. This is such a random ass, probably very stupid idea, but I'm gonna pull it out because I've had it in my head. It's not something that I can produce and like post with any of like my current accounts because I do some creative writing and stuff like that, because like I'm part of communities that would be pissed if I posted anything Harry Potter related. So I'm not gonna upset. I'm not gonna rock the boat like that.
Not gonna rock the boat.
Yeah, but I did have an idea of a way or some sort of like plot that reconciles some of like the things that I have issue with in the Harry Potter universe. So if I had it my way, I would have a Muggle-born student get placed in the Slytherin house, and then they're like struggle with that. And sort of like, like people would be like, well, how did that happen? And then, like maybe getting bullied by classmates, maybe introducing some other like good friends from different houses, and maybe like reconciling the bullying with the classmates. I don't know. Just an idea of like a character premise.
I like Slytherin focused stuff.
Yeah.
Something to try to redeem how horrible Slytherin is.
Yeah. Or like to highlight how I just want some characters with nuance and depth. That's all I want, really.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Because we're not getting
it. That's all I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to say that like I'm pro the racist house. Like I'm not pro racism or anything like that. I just want some nuance and to explore how ambition can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Would this be set after?
Yeah. This would be set. Okay. So like how Harry Potter was set in the 90s, this would be set in like
modern
2010s
day?
or modern day, whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the idea of, because Hogwarts Legacy is set far in the past, like before the events of Harry Potter and stuff like that, or Voldemort and all that. So I think going forward would also be fun. Like if they were to maybe set like another game in the Hogwarts series. I imagine they'll stick with whatever time period they're in if they're going to like continue that series.
Yeah.
But having like a modern day one could be fun too.
Yeah. And I think like, and this is like a hypothetical, like, well, if I was in charge, instead of having this like big bad spooky evil wizard, I think I would keep the conflict focused like between the students.
Yes.
And you would like, you would see the students, I think it would be like the same thing as Harry Potter where like it follows them through all 7 years, but you would see them grow and mature over those 7 years. And, there would be a lot of different character arcs amongst the students, and it would be, something like that. So that's what I would like.
Hard. I feel like, oh man, like how do you do 7 years in a game? Do you do it in one game? I guess so.
Oh, in a game. Like, I don't know.
Because I don't know if you can do a series of 7 games. Like that's a lot for this medium.
Yes.
Like movies and books, like that works. But like games, that's difficult.
That is very difficult.
You would be on multiple platforms guaranteed. Potentially like 3 platforms, assuming they had like a 3-year development cycle.
Yeah. Oh man.
Could be 3 or 4. I don't know.
Or maybe you would just pick like one of the later years or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so Hogwarts Legacy, you start off as a first, you're new to the school, but you are a 5th year student.
Oh, transfer student. I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
that's
you're like a transfer student.
Oh, I know. Wait, do you get to make your own character?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say, throw out the following. So the book and movie adaptations of this new wave of Harry Potter idea that I have. You would just make a transfer student, and then you would just insert your character into this group of pre-existing characters and make friends with them. Ta-da! I don't know. Like it just gives you like a little space to like interact with them and have fun with like a year at them or for a year with them at school.
I got a question for you, kind of related to this.
Okay.
It's just like a this or that type question.
Okay.
Do you prefer pre-made character or create your own character?
Like for myself in video games?
In video games, yeah. And just like all the things that kind of entails. Like,
I like a character that I make where I get to pick branching choices. So like Mass Effect.
Skyrim. RPGs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you define the character.
Yes. But I think, and this is going to be like sort of like a weird, like, I know you said pick one or the other. This is going to be a weird thing. I think it works better and makes a better experience for me so like in Skyrim, for example, you make your character, the game does not give you any information about your character whatsoever. So it's sort of like up to you to like have this whole entire like backstory and motivation and everything for them in your head, or to just like mindlessly do any quest an NPC gives you. And then you have this like really weird character where like you're part of the Assassin's Guild, but also you're the savior of everything. And so it's sort of a strange dynamic to have. Or you have something like Mass Effect where it's like, hey, we let you make your character and you have options within this limited set of choices, but they all still make sense for this character given their pre-written background to be doing. And that's what I like.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I think personally I lean more towards created, like
just a complete open-ended.
Like it's something they already made. Because I just feel like tailored experiences like that where it's I don't know, like also whenever you make a character, do you typically make yourself?
No.
Or do you make a character?
I like to make somebody that's kind of like me, but they're not me. Because
Fantasy Morgan.
Yeah, sure.
Fantasy Morgan.
But not like in a I don't know. But I also don't like Mary Sue characters, where it's like, oh, my character's good at everything.
I think there was a period of time where, like, when I was younger, I would just make me. Like, oh, look, it's me in the video game.
Yeah, I would do that too.
But I don't like that anymore. I, like, hate the idea of playing myself in a video game now. I just want to play, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like when you make the character, it's less... I want the developers to tell me a story about a character. I don't want to make a story about a character necessarily.
Yeah.
In every game, at least. Like certain games, I would definitely want to have the freedom to play around with, making a person. That's kind of one of the downsides about the new Harry Potter game to me, is like, I don't want to make a character. I just want a character with a good story related to that character.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. And like I said, BioWare games really hit that good middle ground for me of like letting me have enough influence to feel like this is my character, but also like having this like pre-written thing that I can like fall back on for the game for my character to actually have a proper character arc. Because if it's up to me, I'm probably not going to do it right according to like the game's narrative. But that's a whole big ass discussion to think about.
And the morality thing.
Uh-huh.
The morality thing brings in like another question of like, if you're going to give the player choice of like, oh, you want it to be like Paragon or Renegade, do you want them to just be a person? You're deciding who they are. So that's true, because for this game, you get to pick your house. So it's like, maybe it makes more sense to pick your character than...
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I don't know if I'd want to play a new Harry Potter game where I'm assigned a house.
I think I would want the freedom. Well, especially like... Well, I guess we don't know how much the house selection actually impacts. Sorry, this is...
Probably little. Probably very little. I gotta be honest.
So this is going to be a big-ass tangent. I'm really sorry. But, so, I know you haven't played any Dragon Age games. But Dragon Age, the first Dragon Age game is called Dragon Age Origins. And the reason why it's called Origins is because it has all of these pre-built origin backstories for you to pick from. And that completely changes your introduction to the game. And sets you up to have like this is like your first experience with this world, and does like a little chunk of world building for you, and then that gives that informs like your worldview, and sort of like sets up like a motivation for you to follow as the origins converge, and then follow the plot line from there going forward. So so I don't know how much picking a Hogwarts house, like I would like if picking a house had like a big impact on at least like the first few hours of the game. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the most you could get.
Yeah.
Like, you have like your own area and stuff, so maybe there's some unique characters depending on which house that you interact with. But I am doubtful of this game because it's kind of like an unproven studio.
Yeah.
Like, and they're just tackling a big open world Harry Potter game that's already going to receive a lot of hate just for being a Harry Potter game.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to expect. I'm excited to just see the goddamn game at some point. I'd love if it was like a trial because PS5 PlayStation has been working a lot with just in like the branding and stuff, or the marketing rather, for this game. So I don't know if they would do the trial thing that they do for some games. That'd be great for me because then I could just try it. We'll see.
All right.
That's all I got to say about future games.
Yeah.
So that concludes Harry Potter. We got to clap, Morgan. It's essential.
Okay.
That's an essential part of our show. We did it. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So next month, we covered Harry Potter for the anticipation of Hogwarts Legacy. We're going to be covering Resident Evil 4 in anticipation of its upcoming remake. And I am very, 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 very excited for this game. I think this is probably, like, out of every game that we have played so far, this is probably my favorite.
Okay.
The first time I played this game was in VR, and I just, like, fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to go back and play it on the PlayStation 2, like the original platform. Not the original platform, but the original generation that it was released in. So I'm loving it. Already started playing it. Morgan, have you started playing this game?
Yes.
Okay. Got any feedback? Have the controls become more familiar to you?
Yeah. Well, so I've played a decent amount, actually, of the first Resident Evil. I bought the Switch version of the first one, which I think has, like, remastered graphics and stuff. Well, actually not. I think it obviously does have remastered graphics. And I got, like, over halfway through that one. So the tank controls, it wasn't, like, the most jarring thing ever. I've been shooting a lot and swinging my knife a lot straight up into the air, though, because I just get into combat and I freak out because I'm scared. So that's going to be a learning curve.
It's very hard to go back to.
Yeah.
It's like a very important game for, like, third-person action, like the genre, but it's a very difficult game to try to revisit in 2023. So
yeah.
I'm getting used to it. That village section really just kind of jumps you into the game. So you have a lot of time to play with it, but I won't talk too much about it. So that's what we're going to be covering next month. So subscribe or follow the podcast if you want to be notified whenever that is available. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you like the show, want to support us, consider leaving a review or a rating on whatever platform you listen on. There's going to be a new episode of Analog Schtick on... I said stick, like an idiot. Schtick. New episode of Analog Schtick released on the 2nd of every month. So, like I said before, subscribe or follow if you want to hear more in-depth discussion of PlayStation 2 games. That is all. Goodbye.
I love you.
Oh my God.
What?
That was Morgan, we got one job. We say goodbye every time.
Oh, it's goodbye. Dang it. Did I do it wrong?
Have you said I love you to the
No.
audience before?
But
first time.
I do. I mean it. I love you.
How do you think the audience is going to respond to
I don't know.
Maybe they're not ready for the
I'm
commitment.
sorry. I'll take it back. If you don't want it, I'll take it back. Anyway, goodbye.
Goodbye.